If you've ever watched video after video after video of Europeans absolutely loving their time here in America whilst traveling for the World Cup, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, folks, and welcome back to another week here on Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook. We have a full week here this week as we get you ready for Monday's open. News flow a little bit slow, but we're going to get you caught up on everything. I have a special guest for you here on Monday. That is going to be awesome. And we're back. We have the career that everyone loves to get back to. We can't wait for the market to open. Great to see a whole bunch of returning faces here. Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook, the Monday edition for June 22nd, 2026, begins right now. Good morning and welcome back, folks. I hope that you all had a wonderful weekend, most notably a wonderful Father's Day. Hopefully it was enjoyable for you. Hopefully all the fathers out there got what they wanted. We are back for another full week here of the market, which means we've got trading to do, we've got news to break down, and we have setups to find. And it's great to see a whole bunch of returning faces here today. Kelly is first here today. Kelly is going to start us off with four-leaf clovers and dollar bills, y'all. That's how we do it here. Good morning, Kelly. Welcome back. Happy Monday. Derek, good morning. Welcome back. It's great to see you. EKS, good morning. Welcome back. EKS, bringing us the news here this morning. Alan Greenspan passing away at the ripe age of 100. RIP to Alan Greenspan. Our thoughts and prayers are absolutely with his family at this time. Peter, good morning. Welcome back. Summer is here, a clear, warm day. In fact, we have the official start of summer over the weekend. It is here. But don't forget, folks, the days are getting shorter now. Really quickly, now that the days are getting shorter, is it acceptable to play Christmas music? Asking for a friend, LOL. Crispy Biscuit, good morning, welcome back. Francis, good morning, welcome back. Zach McCracken, good morning, welcome back. It's great to see you. Yes, that girl, good morning, welcome back. Free Diddy Tomorrow, good morning, welcome back. Unfortunately, you were not first today. Kelly was first here today, but tomorrow is another day to try and get that elusive first title. You're going to have to wake up early, I'm afraid. Corey, good morning, calling us the Dream Team. It's only one dream team in my book because I grew up watching Michael Jordan. But Corey, we will take the compliment for sure. It's great to have you back, buddy. I hope that you had a great weekend and a great Father's Day. Whis, good morning. Welcome back. Producer, good morning. Welcome back. We did have a good weekend. Hopefully you did as well. Patji, good morning or good afternoon from hot Belgium. How hot is it there? And how humid is it there? I will say some of the videos that I was watching over the weekend were elite European soccer players figuring out that the heat over here in the United States is indeed not a joke. It can be crazy. Hopefully you're able to stay cool over there in Belgium. Let me know how hot it actually is. Solitary Soldier, good morning. Welcome back. Acorns, good morning. Welcome back. Von Rivera, good morning. Welcome back. Linda, it's great to see you again. Good morning. Happy Monday. Bernhard, likewise. Good morning. Janie, good to see you as always. Good morning. Lance, good morning. Bob, good morning. Astro Kev, good morning. And indeed, smash up the like. Lance Black says Buc-ee's is a big European favorite. Buc-ee's and Chick-fil-A seem to be the big ones that I've seen there. And just restaurants in general. I watched a video of a guy that went to Cheesecake Factory and absolutely loved it. Said he'd come back because the menu's huge and he wants to review everything. It was very, very amusing. We might even have a personal story about celebrating with some Dutch fans. We'll see how that shakes out here. Tyler, good morning. Welcome back. Just passing through. Good morning. Welcome back. Jason, good morning. What's popping? The show, now that you're here, buddy, market is actually going to open here in about an hour and a half. I'm sure we'll find some other things that are popping here. Lion Atlas, good morning. Welcome back. The Atlas Lions taking care of the Scotland team over the weekend. Scotland, the Tartan Army, developing a very awesome relationship with those folks up in New England. That was also really cool to see. Lion, it's great to have you back. JJ, good morning. Welcome back. Durkis, good morning. Welcome back. I did have a wonderful Father's Day. Thank you. Jim, good morning. Welcome back. Up 30, good morning. Welcome back. James Bond. Love the YouTube handle. Good morning. Welcome back. Good morning, soccer. We do have France playing here today. We'll see what Mbappe does for us today. Cam, good morning. Welcome back. Buffalo by Bicycle. Good morning. Welcome back. Daniel, it's great to see you again. Welcome back. Ice-T My Kate. Yeah, Monday. Good morning. I've had a number of careers over the course of my life, and the only career in which I actually liked Monday was the trading career. So I glass half full as always, but we're back for another opportunity to make some money. Deborah, good morning. Thanks for having me. It is our pleasure, Deborah. Thanks for taking some time and picking us to spend your mornings with. I hope that you enjoy yourself, and I hope that you had a wonderful weekend. Jeff, good morning. Welcome back. Kanjalia, good morning. Welcome back. All right, folks, let's go ahead and get started with our stock market today. All right, futures are mixed here ahead of Monday's open. Notably, they are up off of the low, so they got a little bit firmer here today going into the open. S&P futures, at about unchanged, minus 0.05%. The Dow futures are positive by 0.13%, and the NASDAQ positive by 0.15%. So mixed all around, unchanged, but some green arrows there ahead of today's open. Let's take a look at some cues from last session and see where we're going here today. Most sectors on the S&P 500 closed on a negative note, with energy, financials, and healthcare stocks recording the biggest losses on Thursday. However, consumer discretionary and information technology stocks closed the session higher. U.S. stock futures declined on Monday as the NASDAQ, Dow, and S&P indices fell following Thursday's gains. Now, they've pared some of those losses, and they're hanging out around unchanged. Critical peace negotiations in Switzerland, steered by Vice President J.D. Vance and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, encountered intense strain on Sunday. President Trump issued an ultimatum on Truth Social, threatening severe U.S. military strikes that would eclipse those from the previous week if Iran does not instantly stop its highly paid proxies in Lebanon. Additionally, Trump stated during a Fox News interview that the U.S. intends to take command of the vital maritime passageway and enforce transit tariffs should the diplomatic negotiations break down. Quote, if they don't make a deal, we'll collect tolls, end quote. Meanwhile, the 10-year Treasury bond yielded 4.49%, and the 2-year bond was at 4.22%. The CME Group's FedWatch tool projections show that the markets are pricing in a 63.7% likelihood that the Federal Reserve leaves the current interest rates unchanged during the June meeting. Now, we've got several stocks in focus here for you today. We got some little guys on the list here today. So just incorporate that into your trading plan if you're interested in any of these. Maybe do a little bit more due diligence than you normally would here. The first stock is going to be YY Group Holdings, and the ticker is YYGH. It dropped 13.08% in the pre-market on Monday after the company announced a 30-for-1 reverse stock split aimed at regaining compliance with NASDAQ listing requirements. The next stock on our list is going to be Hyperscale Data, and the ticker is GPUS. It tumbled 36.66% after it announced the $300 million at-the-market equity offering. The next stock on our list is going to be SagTech Global, and the ticker is SAGT. It surged 92.93% after issuing financial year 2026 guidance that projected 35% revenue growth. SagTech projected $25.78 million in revenue, which is up from $19.1 million in revenue in the financial year of 2025. Next stock on our list is going to be Intel, ticker INTC. It rose 3.84%, extending last week's gains as President Trump confirmed a long-rumored partnership between the chipmaker and Apple, ticker AAPL. The last stock on our list is going to be Getty Images Holdings. The ticker is GETY. It zoomed 170.2% after it announced a display agreement with OpenAI. Under the partnership, Getty Images licensed content libraries will appear across OpenAI search and discovery experiences with ChatGPT. All right, let's take a look at the SPY chart. Let's see where we sit, and let's see what is on deck for us here today. When we left last week, we talked about the 20-day moving average being important. We closed above that, or at least it looks like we closed above that. Indeed, closed above it by just a little bit. Now, today, we're basically riding that, so this level is definitely going to be in play here today. I have it at 746.36. We'll see how this holds up. We're currently above that and above 747 here in the pre-market, so we'll see if this strength carries into the regular session. But ultimately, where does this candle close? Do we break below the 20? Do we get another close below the 20? Do we even challenge the candle from Wednesday, which took us to a low of 739.22? I would imagine if we do sell off here from 747, 740 is likely going to be a support level if we get down there. Honorable mention there to 743. We'll see if that ends up giving us support. It's worth noting here that the 50-day moving average continues to creep up. That's sitting at 729.37. That is hopefully continuing, or hopefully going to continue to creep up and provide support if we do end up trading lower. On the flip side, for the upside levels, they're the same because we haven't challenged them and taken them off yet. The first one here is going to be the high from Monday of last week. That's June 15th. That value is going to be 756.68. And then the all-time high, which is also from a Monday, this time June 1st, that value is 760.28. So we'll see where we get the closing candle here today. That will tell us or give us an idea of where the next direction might be. And we'll see what happens from some of these talks. I'll be honest with you, just kind of looking at this, it sure looks like the market, the futures market, kind of shaking off some of the back and forth and the rhetoric that's going on out of the Middle East. So we'll wait and see what kind of market moves we get intraday here today, or if that is affected at all. Now, in the meantime, let's take a look at some insights from analysts. and we'll roll through some news here today. Based on Mohammed El-Erian's assessment, the U.S. economy and stock market are navigating a profound multi-layered transition. Geopolitical shifts, specifically the tentative U.S.-Iran negotiations, initially pushed oil prices down and risk assets up, fueling a, quote, series of record highs for stocks, end quote. This reprieve dropped gas prices below $4 a gallon, offering tangible relief to many American households. However, El-Erian warns that this economic stability faces imminent disruption. Geopolitical tensions threaten to choke supply lines, and the domestic policy landscape is fundamentally shifting. Under its new leadership, the Federal Reserve is undergoing a, quote, profound transition, end quote. Markets reacted hawkishly to the latest FOMC meeting as the rest of the committee dropped its easing bias. El-Erian observes that investors are misreading the central bank's trajectory by stubbornly relying on outdated assumptions. As he notes, quote, too many interpreted the press conference using the old Powell-era playbook, including prematurely extrapolating policy signals while underestimating the new chair's focus on institutional reform, end quote. Ultimately, El-Erian expects a period of recalibration, concluding that, quote, it will likely take another FOMC meeting or two for the markets to view this fundamentally different Fed through an updated lens, end quote. So to me, this is pretty interesting. I was encouraged by what I heard out of Warsh. It'll be very interesting to see how the market takes the changes in communication. And then ultimately, I know task force was the line of the meeting there. How will these task force shape up, and what will they mean for data collection and reporting going forward? I don't think anyone actually knows the answer to that at this time, but we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. Now, looking ahead at some economic data here this week, we have no major economic data scheduled for release here today, so that's good. On Tuesday, we get June's flash U.S. manufacturing and services PMI data. That'll be out at 9:45. On Wednesday, we get May's new home sales data. That's out by 10. And also, the Federal Reserve Board will release its annual bank stress test results right there at the close. On Thursday, we get May's durable goods data, the third estimate for the first quarter GDP, initial jobless claims for the week ending June 20th, and May's personal income, consumer spending, headline, and core PCE data will all be released at 8:30. So as far as the data prints this week, Thursday looks to be our big day there. Okay, thanks. Now, Kansas City's Fed survey, June's Kansas City Fed survey data will be out by 11. Chicago Fed President Austin Goolsbee will speak at the Chicago Council on Global Affairs at 6:30. That's also on Thursday, by the way. And on Friday, May's Advanced Economic Indicators report, along with May's wholesale and retail inventories data, will be out by 8:30. We also get June's final Michigan consumer survey data to be out by 10. So we do have data this week. Thursday looks to be the big day there. Now, let's take a look at some news. I do want to start here with SpaceX just because this is still one of the popular stories out there. We'll start with the chart, then we'll take a look here at some of the news. This is where we're at on the daily. So for the first time, since we actually have some candles here, starting our sixth candle, we can actually take a look at the daily chart here. Had a nice little move right from the IPO. This was absolutely expected. It did go a little bit higher than I expected. I did not quite think 220. I thought 200 might be the top, but it did look like we pushed a little bit higher than that. Now we've come back in, and it's really the next move here on SpaceX that I'm kind of going to be watching. Ultimately, for this, as far as an investment, I definitely want this lower. I think that I'll be able to get this lower, so I'm going to do my absolute best to remain patient in order to do that. But trading some of these moves, this stock is in focus every single day. There are eyeballs all over it, and now we have the ETFs and the options available for us to trade. So I want to see which direction this picks. This is what it looks like. It sure looks like the next direction here is down, maybe 175. We've outlined that as a very, very key level here for SpaceX, and then we'll see if we go test 160. The ETFs that I am using so far, I've had the most success with SPAL, which is your 2x levered long, and then SNK, which is your 2x levered short. I am going to try all of them and see which ones end up working the best. A lot of that is going to come down to volume and then the price of the actual ETF itself. But I did want to take a quick look here at SpaceX. The SpaceX rally is losing steam, and it's down again here in the pre-market. Is that a sign of things to come? Shares of Space Exploration Technologies, or SpaceX, ticker SPCX, have declined 5.13% in pre-market trading on Monday following a two-day sell-off after the company's record-breaking initial public offering. Before said IPO, SpaceX received a governance score equivalent to that of Putin's Russia. That is according to MSCI's ESG risk framework. This rating, which measures a company's management of financially relevant sustainability risks and opportunities, was assigned just before SpaceX's public debut. The company also scored 1 out of 10 in MSCI's controversies category, receiving an orange flag for indirect involvement in one or more severe ongoing controversies. After its blockbuster listing on June 12th, SpaceX had become one of the most valuable companies worldwide. SpaceX's stock experienced a significant surge in its first two full trading days, briefly surpassing the market cap of Amazon, ticker AMZN, and Microsoft, ticker MSFT. However, the stock's value subsequently fell back below these tech giants. CNBC host Jim Cramer said SpaceX could not maintain its meme stock momentum after a recent decline, arguing that the stock's rally lost steam as more sellers entered the market. He noted that SpaceX now has a balanced market of buyers and sellers, making it difficult to sustain meme-driven gains. I want to pause right here very briefly because I'll be honest, for what we do here on a regular basis, that's totally okay. I'm skeptical of the whole meme thing anyway. I think this is a very real company, not memey, and I think it has a lot of interest both by the retail and the institutional sides of the market. But if it doesn't make big, outsized, meme-driven gains, that's okay. There are still other ways to take advantage of it, and that's not going to stop us from making the most of it. Despite a recent pullback, SpaceX shares remained up 37% from their debut price of $135 as of Thursday's close. The IPO has significantly boosted the net worth of Elon Musk, SpaceX's CEO. According to Forbes, Musk's net worth now stands at approximately $1.2 trillion, largely propelled by the soaring value of SpaceX. Musk owns roughly 38% of the rocket company, including options. So we'll see where SpaceX goes from here. I suspect this is going to be one of our great traders. Even if you want to invest and haven't yet or don't feel like you have, I think that's okay. I think that's totally okay. There's going to be plenty of opportunities here to trade all of these. And we're going to stay on top of that as long as it's popular, as long as it is in the trader zeitgeist. We will absolutely take a look at that. Now, I know we talk about Tom Lee here. I know you guys have mixed opinions about Tom Lee, and that's totally fine. But this next story here, Tom Lee identifies 4 catalysts that could end the historic AI semiconductor rally. So I know he's often viewed as a perma bull. It's interesting to me when people viewed as bulls or bears produce some type of thesis or ideas for the opposite direction. I generally take note of that. Wall Street bull Tom Lee is sounding the alarm on the historic AI semiconductor rally, warning that an abrupt change in market conditions is looming. With 4 distinct catalysts threatening to drain the equity liquidity later this year, Lee is questioning what happens when the market's speculative firepower finally gets exhausted. Appearing on Pomp's podcast, Lee stated that these are the 4 major catalysts that could trigger a significant market pullback. The first one is the Fed's structural shakeup. Markets will inevitably test the Federal Reserve as it completely redoes its inflation framework using 5 new task forces. The second is the mega IPO liquidity drain. massive equity unlocks from SpaceX, coupled with the upcoming IPOs of OpenAI and Anthropic, will absorb billions in capital. We've talked about this seemingly every day in the lead up to SpaceX. The third catalyst is the coming shortages. Persistent supply chain disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz are setting dangerous macroeconomic preconditions. And if that continues, we could see more downside from that. And then the last one here is the speculative firepower running out. A severe correction will hit when margin debt reaches historic extremes and investors begin moving massive amounts of cash to the sidelines. Now, we don't see that yet, but that's something to watch. The current AI-driven semiconductor rally has officially eclipsed the scale of the 1999 dot-com bubble, prompting concerns over a sharp K-shaped divergence in the broader market. While blockbuster tech earnings have delivered what analysts describe as, quote, video game numbers, end quote, the rest of the market is fracturing. Lee's cautious that this parabolic run faces a hard ceiling once the fourth catalyst hits, when speculative firepower runs out and margin debt levels hit historically associated with short-term corrections. Beyond international market mechanics, major macroeconomic and geopolitical pressures are mounting against the bulls. The Federal Reserve's decision to launch 5 task forces to rethink its framework introduce a level of structural uncertainty that the markets despise. Simultaneously, global supply chains remain under severe pressure. Ongoing disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz threaten to trigger severe coming shortages that Lee views as a primary precondition for a broader market reset. The final pressure point stems from the massive liquidity drain within the technology sector itself. The SpaceX IPO, which launched with a highly restricted float, is scheduled to unlock substantial shares in phases later this year. Remember, the first one is coming at earnings, which is going to be in early August. And if it remains above that key 175 level, an additional 10% will be unlocked around that earnings date. When combined with highly anticipated public debuts from rival AI heavyweights Anthropic and OpenAI, this massive influx of new equity will absorb billions in available capital, effectively starving the current AI chip rally of the vital liquidity, keeping it afloat. So I want to get your ideas for that. How many of you think maybe we are nearing the end of this? Maybe the days where Micron trading up every single day are over or perhaps going to change. Let me know if any of you are kind of looking for this. And then if you are looking for this, or if you think these catalysts hit and inevitably move us towards a market reset, what are you looking to do in that? Are you looking to trade it to the downside? Are you simply just waiting until you can grab things at more attractive prices? Let me know how you're sifting through all of that data there. All right, now some of the news from last week here. Intel's Apple-driven surge gets a harsh verdict. Uh-oh, we're throwing the term around again. Here it is, meme stock terms again. Intel, ticker INTC, is drawing sharply divided views on Wall Street as speculation over the potential Apple Foundry partnership fuels optimism about the chipmaker's AI manufacturing ambitions. Intel stock rose on reports that Apple could become a foundry customer, reinforcing hopes that the company is gaining traction in its effort to rebuild U.S. semiconductor manufacturing. The stock has climbed more than 263% year to date and over 530% in the past year. Shares were up another 4% on Monday. Deepwater Asset Management's Gene Munster told CNBC on Friday that Intel's surge on the Apple news looks excessive and called the move crazy. He said Apple's business with Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or ticker TSM, was about $21 billion last year, and estimated that even if Intel won 10% of that business over the next several years, it would add only about 5% to Intel's revenue. Munster said the headline helps the company look like a real tech player, but he argues the details do not yet justify the rally and said Intel is becoming a meme stock instead. Wedbush Securities analyst Matt Bryson told CNBC on Thursday that Intel has benefited from several positive developments, including talk of an Apple deal, potential new customers, improving yields, and a better version of its 18A process. Still, he said Intel now trades at similar enterprise value to sales levels as Advanced Micro Devices, ticker AMD, and Taiwan Semiconductor, ticker TSM, even though he does not believe Intel has matched either company's business quality. Bryson said AMD has a stronger position in server chips, while Taiwan Semiconductor remains far ahead of Intel in foundry manufacturing. He said he prefers Taiwan Semiconductor and AMD because they also benefit from stronger compute demand. Melius Research's Ben Reitzes told CNBC on Thursday that he expects Intel to win Apple business because Apple faces capacity shortages at Taiwan Semiconductor and needs to broaden its chip sources. He said massive Mac demand and the rise of AI agents have made the Mac's unified memory architecture more useful, creating an opportunity for Intel foundry work that could become, quote, bigger than people think. Reitzes said CEO Lip-Bu Tan gives the company more credibility with potential customers because of his industry relationships and the chip design background. Reitzes said Taiwan Semiconductor still sets the standard. Still, Intel's roadmap gives it a chance to close the gap if it executes, with 18A yields improving, 18AP making progress, and NVIDIA potentially using Intel's 14A process in high volume by 2029. So, what do you think? Do you think Intel is a meme stock? I see Zach here in the chat saying, I want Intel much lower. Don't doubt it. Certainly don't want to chase it. How low do you think it goes, Zach? I guess that's what we're really looking for. How low do you think this goes? Where are the ads spots for Intel? We'll see. We'll see where we go. All right, folks, I promised you a guest on Monday, and we're going to deliver that. I'm very, very excited here as a special guest for us and a personal one for me, too. When I got started in 2014, this guest was all over CNBC and had the brokerage that I chose to use. So really, really awesome stuff. We are very, very pleased to welcome Senior Vice President, Head of Retail Expansion and Alternative Investment Products at the Cboe Global Markets, JJ Kinahan. Let's go ahead and bring him on. Good morning, JJ. How are you?
And how are you, pal? Good to see you.
It's really good to have you here. Like I said, I've been doing this for a while now, and you were one of the first people that I watched on CNBC, constantly talking about what retail was doing. Absolutely love to have you on the show here today. Thanks for taking the time.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to hang out with any of the guys from Benzinga. As you know, I think I've known you guys since the company started, and always just great people. So it's really fun to be on.
Love to hear it. Local Chicago guy too. So Midwest love, Chicago there. We got it. All right. Let me just dive right into this. It's been a wild week here for the markets. I definitely want to ask you about SpaceX, but I want to start with the broader market backdrop here. Mm-hmm. Do you have any key trends that are shaping the current conditions that we're in right now?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things, Ryan, that I've been looking at that's been interesting. Number one is the lack of, now we've had some great intraday volatility and even interweek volatility, but at the end of the day, the VIX really hasn't gone anywhere. And it's kind of interesting. We've been just above 20 for about a week and a half, but overall, as you and I are speaking right now, trading, 18 and a quarter-ish. And what's interesting to me is it's been able to stay under 20 with all the crazy stuff that's going on. And then the other thing I look at is just in terms of market sentiment. And what I mean by that is there is not this sense that I get from people that they have to be long the market. In fact, it's probably what I would call nervous longs. Everybody who's long right now is talking about, oh my God, I'm so nervous we're going to go down. I'm so nervous we're going to go down. The great thing about that is that's how you keep going up. There is nobody who feels they have to be all in or anything like that right now. That's when I get really nervous. Yes, a lot of people are talking about an AI bubble, et cetera. We had that sell off, but at the end of the day, you're still near all-time highs, and you still have incredible nervousness around it, and that actually makes me a bit more bullish, to be quite honest with you, Ryan.
Okay, that's that. I was just going to ask you. It makes you a little bit more bullish. I was just going to ask you. Market near all-time highs. I've always been told that the time to buy insurance is when it's cheap, not when you're trying to chase it to the upside. We got a VIX under 20, like you were saying. Now's not the time, though. More bullishness on the horizon.
Well, hold on. There's a difference, in my opinion, between being prudent, buying some protection if you think you need it, and being all in. As I said, I think we can continue to grind higher as we are because there is not this sense of all in. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have any caution, et cetera, and it's not going to be an easy path. But this isn't going to the upside. Usually a grind, anyways. This has been an absolute grind as we continue to go higher. Every day you feel like you're exhausted.
Yeah,
And
no,
these inter-day and inter-week moves have been absolutely nuts.
you really do. There's been days where I've stepped away from my terminal at the end of the day, and I've been like, "Wow, was that 2 days?" I am exhausted. I
Yeah,
am
today was a
exhausted
long
here.
week.
Even if they're truncated, they're sometimes long weeks. That's just how it goes. Now, look,
Exactly.
let's talk about retail trading behavior a little bit more. What we're seeing in terms of activity and how retail investors are positioning themselves. What are you seeing out there? What is retail gravitating to?
Well, I think a couple of things. Number one, you were talking as I was in a waiting room about Intel, and I
Mhm.
think Intel is just a little bit more of a, I don't want to say symptom, but it starts to tell the story of what we're seeing with retail overall, and that is anything involved with chips and AI, they're absolutely loving. I will say this too. One of the big, SpaceX was an absolute home run in terms, credit to everybody involved from the IPO day to how the options rolled out. It was, many of your viewers probably know, but for those who don't, it was the biggest single trading day for a new IPO ever.
Yep.
So much of that driven by retail overall. And what we do see when we see sell-offs overall, what's really interesting to me is you start to see retail being the first ones to buy. Where do you see it? You see it in stocks like Microsoft. You see it in SpaceX. Well, now SpaceX overall, but I shouldn't throw that one in there as one that they're starting to. You still tend to see a little bit in Apple overall, and you definitely see it in Nvidia. Those are the names where people are going to overall. And it's interesting when as I look at the SPX, which again, the cash S&P 500 traded here at the Cboe, I see these sell-offs. And as you start to see the sell-off, on a normal day, SPX trading is about 50% retail, 50% institutional in terms of overall. In fact, a little bit more retail. We sell off, you see retail start to pull back a little bit, and it may go 65 institutional, 35 retail, and then that flips really quickly. Once we start to settle in a little bit, retail gets back in much faster than does the institutional side of the business and starts to cause us to go higher. And like I say, then you see the individual names like Nvidia. You used to see Microsoft. Microsoft, in fact, used to, for years, when people would buy the dip, Ryan, Microsoft was the stock they started with. Over the last year, as you have seen in the performance of Microsoft, that has 100% changed.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Another stock in there that it seems like retail really likes to go after is Google. And I know, at least in our community here, these memory names, anytime despite the huge run that they go on, anytime they pull back at all, even something like the 20-day moving average, those seem to get bought up too.
I would say they do, but they're step 1A. I will say step one still starts with the Nvidias of the world and the SPX, and those become step 1A. But I agree with you.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Now, last thing I wanted to ask you about here. You guys do fantastic work at the CBOE. You always have. And I know that you are kind of getting involved in the prediction markets. That's another kind of a big theme out there. What do you have coming down the pipe here for prediction markets in terms of new products or anything like that?
Well, thank you very much, Ryan. And it was one of the reasons I came on board. I've only been here since January, even though I traded here for 21 years and I was on a lot of the boards here, et cetera. And so you may have seen the article in the Wall Street Journal this weekend, which Schwab is going to start trading prediction markets for the first time. We have a little bit different view. We are not going to trade things on sports or, maybe to our own personal chagrin, Ryan, the color of Taylor Swift's dress at the award ceremony. But we will trade on things that have to do with the market. We feel feel are truly about investments. And we're going to start with the XSP, which many may know is also the mini SPX. It's 1/10 the size of the SPX. And we felt that it was a more reasonable retail contract because these really have been retail driven. So, instead of 7,500, it's 750. So you can choose yes, no, if you think like the S&P 500 is going to be above 7,500. And that makes a lot of sense to most people. But what we're doing is something unique. I've spent, as you know, my whole career in options, and a lot of it working with retail, teaching people about options. So one of the things we want to do is, you and I know from our years doing this that options aren't just about yes or no. Options are about being directionally right, still having an opportunity to make money. So we're going to do something called the plus zone. What the plus zone is simply a vertical spread. But instead of saying yes, no at 750, you can buy perhaps the 749, 750. And I'll take an extreme example. That way, if you close at 749.99, you didn't lose money. You actually made money because something like that, maybe trading at 50 cents, now you made 49 cents. And we want to teach people, actually, we'll surround it with education. Our whole goal is to teach people the basics of options. And as you know, vertical spreads, calendar spreads being the basics of options. So if we can teach people how to trade vertical spreads, it can prolong their investing career, and it's something they can use anywhere on any optionable product. We think it's a really great way to go about it. The brokerage firms love it because we're being their partner in teaching their clients and giving them an opportunity to really learn how the market works. We think that's the most important thing we can do.
Okay, I think that's absolutely fantastic. Look, I know this is only anecdotal here, but when I first started, I obviously got started trading stock. It was actually the TD Ameritrade educational sessions that got me into options, or taking a more serious look at options. I started to add those tools to the toolbox. It looks like you're going to try to do something very similar here with the prediction markets.
We are, because I think sometimes people present options in a way that makes it intimidating. We want people to realize that they're just another, to your point, they are another tool, but they're a smart tool. And also, a lot of people using prediction markets are younger. They probably don't have as much capital. Vertical spreads allow you to trade without a lot of capital. And most importantly, Ryan, as you know, defining your risk. What can I make? What can I lose? It's a nice opportunity to really get involved in the markets in a much different way than most people do. And I believe we're the first ones to actually draw the path for retail traders, how prediction markets actually can truly relate to the overall market and give them a lifetime of investing rather than just betting on one game.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely fantastic. Really good stuff there. And one more thing here. I know that the my favorite radio station here locally in Chicago, ESPN 1000, has moved into your building. So hopefully you get to see those guys throughout the course of the day. Another really good group of folks there. So
can I tell you one really quick story?
Yes, please.
If you have time. So Tom Waddle, one of the great people I've ever met. I'll tell you something really quick. When I was younger and my kids were in sports, I ran our town's Little League, travel baseball, etc. So we had a fundraiser, and Tom was supposed to be the guest speaker. So it starts at 7 o'clock on a Saturday night, and it was like it was like a men's cigar and beer nights, whatever, a lot of fun. Tom calls me at 4:30, says I can't make it. Tom, you're killing me. He's like, I'm sorry, my wife just got sick. I'm actually taking her to the hospital. Of course, I'm like, oh my God, it's terrible, blah blah blah. He goes, I'll call you next year. I promise to call next year. No fee. Anything you're going to pay me, I'll donate. I promise I'll come for 6 hours. But okay, Tom, great. So let's, we're giving that a 50-50 probability, right, Ryan? Sure. So it comes. I call Tom 2 months or 3 months beforehand. He goes, I'm in. He lived 100% up to his word. He stayed the whole night. He told story after story. He could not have been a better guy. And I always tell this story about him because you always hear bad things about people. A man who kept his word, took care of his family first, and could not have been a more generous person. So I love those guys too, just because I love Tom Waddle.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm here for any good story about that. I know growing up, my dad used to talk about Tom Waddle like he was some type of mythical figure that never dropped a football.
He really didn't.
And I've called in the station a few times. My father would be happy to see me being able to talk to Tom. I appreciate you sharing that story.
Awesome. Well, Ryan, as always, great to see you. Thanks for having me. Say hey to all the great folks at Benzinga.
We'll absolutely do that. JJ, thanks for taking the time. I very much look forward to having you back. All right.
All right, my friend. Take care. Talk soon.
Take care. JJ Kinahan from the Cboe. Really good stuff there. We will try and get more updates on what retail is doing and what you can expect in the future. We thank JJ for his time here on Monday. I hope that you folks enjoyed that. Now, I do want to get back to Benzinga here because I do have a couple of really quick stories to go through. And I know I kind of threw my producer under the bus. But producer, I did slack you a tweet that I would like to go over here as well. Now, really quick, let's go ahead and bring back Pro. I do want to cover the news story here. Let me find this. All right. This is an ongoing saga that we have looked at. I think that there is probably going to be some other way that we can make some money off of this. I just don't know yet when that is. But this is about the whole robotaxi thing here. Ross Gerber calls Waymo way safer and better than Tesla's full self-driving. And then he questions whether Elon Musk can even catch up. Well, there's one thing that I've learned over the course of doing this, that when you bet against Elon Musk, you had better come correct because he has a way of living up to some of those things. So we'll see. I personally believe he can keep up here. But also, I noticed over the weekend, I'm starting to see more and more and more commercials advertising Waymo as a driverless way of transportation and how it is safer than humans driving. And I'm just very curious to see if this picks up at all. Investor Ross Gerber of Gerber Kawasaki has hailed Alphabet, ticker GOOG and GOOGL, the Waymo robotaxi service way ahead of Elon Musk's Tesla, saying that the former is better at navigating Los Angeles traffic, which if you've ever driven there, you know can get gnarly. In a post on X on Sunday, Gerber shared that he had been using Waymo recently to commute. The Gerber Kawasaki co-founder shared that the robotaxis drove better than human drivers in LA. Quote, interestingly, they've trained it to avoid some difficult areas and turns where Tesla tries and fails often, end quote. He pointed out, adding that approach results in Waymo taking the longer routes. Quote, Waymo solves tough LA things by avoiding them, where Tesla does it and often fails, end quote. Investor then said that the systems cannot be compared. Quote, Waymo is just way safer and better, end quote. And Gerber went on to say, before asking if Tesla could catch up to the robotaxi operator and its vision-based full self-driving. Tesla's robotaxi service in Texas operates in 3 cities, Houston, Austin, and Dallas. Combined, the EV giant had close to 69 vehicles in its fleet across the cities, but its rides are cheaper than Waymo. While also being cheaper than Uber and Lyft, interestingly, ticker UBER and LYFT. The EV giant's robotaxi ambitions also may have gotten a boost after Texas Department of Transportation Executive Director Mark Williams backed its cybercab, calling it, quote, significant shift in mobility. However, the EV giant faces some challenges as its self-driving tech and its safety have been brought into question by the EV giant's former data labelers and engineers, who said that they do not trust the full self-driving system and its safety data. Meanwhile, Waymo recently introduced a premium subscription tier for its frequent users, which touts quicker pickup times and early access to service rollouts in the new service areas. Dubbed Waymo Premier, the service would be available for $29.99 a month and will initially roll out in areas like San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Phoenix. Waymo also issued a recall recently for nearly 4,000 robotaxis running its 5th-generation self-driving system due to an issue that may cause the robotaxi to speed into construction zones on the road. That's according to a recent National Highway Traffic Safety Administration filing. Yeah, don't speed in work zones. We all know that, even from very, very young driving ages. Okay. Last story here. This is on a stock that a lot of people ask about. I know a lot of people have traded this over the years. It has been severely beaten down. And I know that there are folks waiting to take another stab at this. This one is about Nike. Nike CEO Elliot Hill admits the turnaround is taking longer than expected and says, quote, we still have work to do. Nike, ticker NKE, CEO Elliott Hill admitted that the company's restructuring process is not progressing as swiftly as initially planned. Can it turn around at all? That's my question. Hill attributed the delay to the magnitude of Nike's challenges, amplified by U.S. tariffs and increasing oil prices that have affected consumer spending. Quote, "What I didn't realize until I got in is the amount of work that's needed to be done and the amount of time it would take to get us where we are and, more importantly, where we want to go," end quote. Hill told that in an interview to the Financial Times that was published today. He stressed that the company still has, quote, "work to do, especially in terms of global consistency." Hill said the company is not yet delivering a consistent brand, product, and marketing experience worldwide. He expects revenue and profit growth to follow once those areas improve, with the full impact of Nike's restructuring likely becoming evident early next year as new products roll out across markets and business segments. Quote, "We're not presenting consistently around the world at the level that I want. When we do that, the revenue and the profits follow," end quote. He also highlighted Nike's ongoing efforts to enhance operating overhead and structure for efficiency, with updates for shareholders expected at the November Investors Day. Nike's focus on higher margin direct-to-consumer sales reduced its retail presence, just as in-store shopping rebounded after the pandemic, allowing rivals like On and Hoka to gain ground. At the same time, its shift towards lifestyle products weakened its performance-driven brand image. Local competitors took market share in China, and critics said its product lineup had become stale and less culturally relevant. RBC Capital market analysts revised their outlook for Nike at the onset of the FIFA World Cup 2026, noting that despite some progress under Hill, the turnaround was slower than anticipated. The analyst said Nike's biggest hurdle is reviving consumer demand, with expected gains from Hill's turnaround plan now pushed to 2027 rather than 2026. RBC lowered its profit forecast for 2027 and 2028, warned of potential market share losses, and expect Nike's revenue growth to trail the industry's average pace. Previously, Needham noted that Nike expects revenue declines to persist before improving towards the end of the year, while earnings are likely to remain largely flat. Although North America posted 3% revenue growth in the third quarter, international markets continue to face headwinds, with China remaining a key concern because of elevated inventory levels. On a positive note, however, Nike's performance-focused products are gaining traction, and newer styles are resonating well with consumers. It'll be interesting to see if that trend is something that can continue or if that is a slight outlier. All right. I see here in the chat, Deborah saying, "I love my Brooks walking shoe." I think this is one of the big problems here. Back in the day, there wasn't as much choice, and the brands were different enough where one was good and the others really kind of weren't good in terms of how it fit on your foot. Now, it seems that the choices are more abundant. The styles are more abundant, the fits are more abundant, and the utility of these are more abundant. Deborah here saying she loves her Brooks. That is not uncommon. I personally never really liked Nikes outside of the Jordan cool factor. And I've started to find that some of the newer brands like On and to a lesser degree Hoka actually produce a more comfortable shoe. And I'm more willing to spend my hard-earned money on it. Really, what's going to change that for Nike? That's the key question. And if any of you folks have a bull case on Nike, I'm interested in it, and I'm sure other folks in the chat are interested in it too, given the stock's fall from grace, if you will. All right. How much? Dude, 8:51. We are right on again. We're doing a great job here with time. We are going to have more time for ticker time, and we're going to also break down some of the movers there. First, however, we are going to do street tweets. Let's go ahead and get that knocked out right now. This was a tweet that I saw yesterday while watching the World Cup game, and I thought that the stat was absolutely excellent and wanted to bring it here to you today. Remember, it comes from Odd Stats, by the way. Great account. Highly recommend that y'all folks follow it. Remember, not one correction or bear market on the S&P 500 has ever begun in June of any year. Not one, ever. They don't start in June. However, 2 corrections and 2 bear markets have begun in July, midday peak to midday trough. So, we just talked to JJ about what retail's doing with flow and how they're buying the dip and all of that. We talk here all of the time about what direction is the market going? Are we going to get this sell-off, this, that, and the other thing? Here's a stat for you. It doesn't look like it's going to start in June. At least history tells us that that's the case. Looking at the calendar here, that is the rest of this week and Monday and Tuesday of next week before we enter July. And then also looking ahead here, if I'm not mistaken, producer, I'll double check this when I get a chance, but I believe that the market is closed July 3rd, Friday, in observance of the 4th of July. But I will check that out for you. So again, not one correction, not one bear market ever started in June. We don't have that much longer in June left. So we'll see if we end up getting that there in July. All right, let's go back to pro here. We can absolutely do some ticker time here. Let me catch up and make sure I didn't miss anything here on the chat. I know you guys were saying that, or a producer here, my video has been choppy. We can't figure that out. Producer, we need to figure out exactly why that's happening. I'm not sure why it's happening. Audio's been fine. That's great. And producer, thank you, doing the work for us. Confirmed, the market will close at 1 p.m. on July 3rd. Okay, so that means that we're still going to have a show in the morning, right, producer? If we're going to have a half day, we're going to be here for that. So we'll continue. Yeah, we're definitely going to do that. Okay, we'll continue to bring you that news and bring you all of these ideas here. Okay. Let me go through some of the comments here. Buy Nike and you'll get a turn. Okay, Joe, that is saucy here earlier. Brandy, good morning. Knapp, good morning. CoinFox says, I've tried a Keen brand shoe and I absolutely love it. I've bought maybe 6 pairs in the last year. Keen? That's one I'm not familiar with. But CoinFox, this is a really good comment because this is an example of exactly why I think Nike is struggling. I think there are new competitors in the market that are just so much better than what we've seen in the past. The choices are a joke, and Nike is a classic that will weather the storm while people move on from the losers. So that's interesting. That's the other side of it there from the goods. I don't think some of the new shoes are a joke, but again, I think this is going to be largely dependent on what your foot agrees with there. As far as the Nike being a classic and able to weather the storm, I absolutely would not write that off. Frankly, I think the Jordan brand right now is kind of helping keep Nike afloat. I don't ever think that's going anywhere. And I think if they can really make some headway with some good products, shoes or otherwise, perhaps we can actually get that turnaround from that. That's interesting to hear that, though. I know that there are people on both sides of this. Ed says Nike is junk shoes. They don't last and they are trash. Okay, there we go. And Buffalo by Bicycle has heard of those Keens. They're nice, but they're hit or miss. So, okay, a lot of that, a lot of back and forth on that. We'll see. And in fact, let me actually bring the Nike chart up here. We'll take a really quick look at that chart. Then we'll move on to some of the tickers that you folks are asking about. Here's the thing about Nike. When we zoom out, you can see, man, oh man, ever since right after COVID, this thing has been in a nasty downtrend. Every bottom seems to get taken out and tested lower. Now, it looks like we're trading sideways here. If I actually move to a monthly chart, get an idea of where we've been before. I got to be honest, this $40 level, this certainly looks to be awfully key. I know we've kind of tested it once. We'll see if we test it again. But this level in here, this looks to be next, right? $40 looks to be the next support there. So with the current price, 45, maybe a trade against 40 and a potential move back up towards 60 or even 80 will give you the risk to reward that you're looking for there. We'll see with Nike, though. I love Ed here. Just sell it. That's funny. That's funny. Okay. Hive, UMC, and Apple. Bruce, you're just throwing tickers out there, aren't you? Here's Hive Digital. We actually talked about this last week, I'm pretty sure. Hive here, 441 today. The big thing here is going to be the trend line. So this trend line originated back in October of 2025 and connects through I believe this was the May high, right? No, excuse me. No, it was. Yeah, it was the end of May, beginning of June high here for Hive. This trend line, this is our next resistance. So as far as can we get going here next? Well, if we hold this 20-day, if we stay above 415, and now we're able to test the trend line. Let me actually try and get you a estimation of where that would be here today. Today, this would be up at about 470, 475. That might be your potential resistance area. You can break above that. Giddy up. We actually might have something going here on Hive. This is just what I see on the chart. No position for me on this one. Apple levels was the other one suggested there. Here's Apple. You just heard JJ talk about Apple. I also agree that this is one of the stocks that you can kind of hide out, right? If tech is really kind of getting beat down, Apple seemingly is going to get beaten down less than some of its peers, and this still kind of makes it a bit of the safety trade. Looking at the levels here, the obvious one is staring us right in the face. It is that round 300 level. We also have the 20-day moving average, which we would very much like to recapture here at 303. We've got it at 302.96. Let's call it 303 for East. You can see here, we had a really nice break above the trend line. We tested it, pulled back, broke above it. That led to a great little run here. Now, the run is pulled back towards the 50. We did not actually print the 50, although we got awfully close to that. Next here, this sets up, what do we break first? Do we break the 20-day to the upside, or do we break the 50-day to the downside? These, I think, are the two things we're kind of waiting for here. We'll see if these compress. In the meantime, we are dancing right around that round 300 number, so we'll see what we get for Apple here today. There you go, Acorns. Let me know what levels you have on Apple as well. Lion saying Nike was always a no touch for me. We may see 35. So if we break 40 to the downside, Lion, we will start to re-examine some more possible support levels that are beneath that there on Nike. No doubt about it. Okay, let's see. What was the other one, Bruce, you threw out there? UMC, I think it was, right? UMC. This is United Microelectronics Corporation. This is a Taiwanese stock that has been on a huge, huge move. I'll tell you what, Bruce, you tell me what you're thinking here, but this looks like a blue sky breakout to me. Right? So we had a huge impulse move. The stock basically went vertical, acted like the memory names where it pulled back to the 20-day, which also filled a gap. It looks like, filled the gap, pulled back to the 20-day. Then we ripped higher and broke that recent high. This to me looks like a breakout. Did we have news on this? The stock is up 13% here today. Shares of semiconductor. Was this a previous company that this might have been a different ticker. So this looks like it's moving, and this was from Thursday of last week. This must be from the post about semiconductor terafab chips. So it looks like this is just kind of getting a boost on the back of the chip news here. I guess I'm surprised to see it up 13% here today, but again, looks great on the chart. That looks like a breakout chart to me. Short interest here, pretty negligible. UMC, you know what, Bruce? I think we need to watch this one a little bit more. I'm sorry I'm not as up on this one. Okay, folks, it is 9 o'clock. That means it's time for Pre-Market Pulse and our buddy 13. Let's go ahead and bring him on. $13, happy Monday. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing fantastic.
Okay, are you feeling better? Number one.
Oh, yes. Way better. Well, you know I'm feeling better because you saw the pictures from Saturday.
Yes, but I was trying to set you up because not everybody, I'm sure somebody here has hacked my phone, but not everybody. So.
Oh, yeah. So, I can't stand by and have all this great stuff go down while the World Cup's on. All these things coming to Houston, to Texas, to different parts of the nation. I was watching all of it, and I was like, I got to be part of that. So that's what I did. I went out and I started hanging out with the Dutch when they.
How did that go?
Oh,
I saw 40,000 strong in Dallas. How did that go?
Jeez, is that how much it went to?
That's what the reports were saying.
Man, because I remember they had this whole march from Rice University to NRG Stadium. Fortunately, I didn't make it to that, but I was there. I was watching the game, and I was partying with them afterwards at a couple of their their choice spots they had for the Dutch team fans. But it was just fantastic. Talked to some Dutch folks, met a broker, met a real estate agent, met one guy who's in ASML. We had a group of guys we were talking to, my friend and I, and they wanted to see his truck because they don't have these full size American trucks out there in the Netherlands like we do. It's just impractical, and their vehicles are much smaller. So they were just beaming about how roomy it was. These are really tall guys. I'm not very tall. I'm like 5'8", but these guys are like 6 feet something. So they were just a joy to be around. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed singing and dancing with them, and I'm going to be doing it all over again this week. So I'll say this: if I know it's a long shot, but if the Tartan Army, the Scots, they do end up winning their group, which line I know it's going to be very, very difficult because of the group that they're in. But if they make it, you might not see me next week for a little while because I'll be with them.
Okay. You know what? That is an excused absence, as we say around here. That's absolutely phenomenal. Look, we won't spend a whole lot more time on this, but this entire World Cup has been absolutely awesome. It's great to see people celebrating. It's great to see how everything's worked. The games themselves have been excited. And leave it to 13, partying with a bunch of Dutch folks, and somehow strikes up a conversation about ASML. Just absolutely marvelous.
And I didn't even bring that up. We just, I just talked like, this is what I do. And then this guy, he pulls out his phone. He goes, I got this, It's great.
That is really awesome. All right. Keep us posted on those stories there.
You got it.
13, we're going to break down whatever you want here. We can take a look at stuff. We can take a look at the movers, but I did want to mention here real quick, and I'm not sure what's going on because I was listening to your story here, but it looks like the S&P futures are now at the pre-market highs. So S&P futures are trading higher here by 0.07%. These are, in fact, the morning highs. We had a little bit of a spike there in the SPY. I'll check and see if anything happened here. Doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like anything happened here, but we are trading higher here in the pre-market. So 13, should we just hit the movers list first here?
Let's get these movers out of the way.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. First one here is going to be Getty. So Joe, ask and you shall receive. Here's Getty Images. We talked a little bit about this earlier. This thing did go to 250 here. The news on Getty is that it's announced a display agreement with OpenAI. Under the partnership, Getty's image licensed content libraries will appear across OpenAI search and discovery experiences with ChatGPT. So that's what's going on here with Getty. Now, given the headline, my initial reaction, entirely unsurprised to see the power candle here at 250. What happens next is going to be the big question. What happened next? We retraced 60% of that move, and we really struggled to get above VWAP. We've got a bunch of wicks here that look like we're trying to peak above VWAP. We're really unable to close above that. Now we've kind of moved lower. So until we can kind of turn this around and recapture it, I'm a bit skeptical. We are curling here as we're finding some support around the 65 EMA. Quick peek at the short interest on Getty, 17.93% of the float is shorted. That is elevated, not quite at our high threshold, but really close. And 4.59 days to cover. Again, not quite at our high threshold, but very, very close there. 13, what do you have here? Ticker GETY.
Well, the first thought that I had when I saw this news is like, oh, okay, so OpenAI got a whole new semester of textbooks. That's the way I looked at it. They're just basically getting more content to learn from and display and use for their training and for their usage. So I think that's how I would initially look at it. So it's great for Getty. I think it's helpful for OpenAI. I don't have all the terms of their agreement, so I'm kind of wondering how this helps Getty over the term. I'm sure it's going to be great for them, but I don't know if there's some sort of licensing or fee that they're going for, or if it's like a rate. I just don't know how all the different details, but I think this is a great thing for both companies. 89 million shares in the float, so this is a little bit thicker than what we're used to trading here. So we may or may not get the greatest movement here today with these. That tends to happen with these heavier floats. We may get a little bit of a pop in the beginning, but there's a slow leak throughout the day when it comes to these larger float stocks. The company does have cash. They do have revenue, but they're not always profitable. And one of the things that I saw about this is that their short interest metrics are improving. So this is getting a little squeezy here, or has been a little squeezy. At least that's what I had when I first looked at it. Nope, that's correct. So this is the lowest short interest it's had since looks like maybe early last year, late 2024. So there was, because this had some short interest that went as high as a 47.5. That was in February. That's significantly been cut down to more than half. So this dwindling short interest is kind of interesting, and I think that could be signaling that there's some more upside here to be had over the longer period. That's just the read that I have from that. In terms of the chart, we need to recapture that VWAP. This has been the struggle it's had all morning, and I think all morning. So that's going to be the big resistance to get over for the time being. I have that at 161. And the price is dancing around the 65 EMA right now, going above and beneath it. So I'm not really sure I'd be leaning on that as a support level for right now. I think I'd be more inclined to look at 110 as the support level from here.
Okay. All right. Good stuff there on Getty. That takes care of that. Next on the list here, looks like we've got NXTS. Nexentis Technologies. This was actually not on the list when I first woke up here. Very, very interesting. Thing closed down just shy of 5% last week, but we are up 100% here as this thing ripped higher and printed 11 before backing off that high spot. There's got to be news on this. Indeed, there is. So Nexentis Technologies subsidiary MitoCarex Bio enters a research agreement with Bolt to accelerate the identification of novel small molecule proteins of interest using AI platforms. So we're getting some of our AI news here in healthcare, and look at the result that we're getting. 100% move. Not shocked to see that. How does this finish is one of the things I want to see. It goes on to say here that the subsidiary MitoCarex Bio partners with AI biomolecular drug discovery research lab Bolts to accelerate the identification of those small molecule scaffolds targeting selected solute carrier proteins. So if Kathy, I guess I'm curious right off the bat what you think about this. Stocks moved higher by 100% here. Let's take a quick peek at the short interest. It's got some, but not crazy. 1 day to cover, 4% of the float short, 100% move higher here. The float on this one is a micro float. So I've got a reading here of 612,000 shares. On average, the thing trades 200,000 shares a day. It's traded 15 plus million here today. So look out on this one. 13, what do you think here? NXTS.
That micro float brought to you by a reverse split on was recorded on April 8th. And that was a 1 for 7. That resulted in this 612,000 share float that we have. The company doesn't have revenue, being that I think this was a biotech? No, chemicals. They don't have revenue, but they are in drug discovery. They have little cash and they're not profitable. So those things there combined make me think that they're going to need to raise. It's about to break over the recent high it just made of 11.15, by the way. So I would be a little bit careful with this one. Make sure you're not sticking around in this because they do need to raise some cash. That could be as early as today. The next step is with this company being that this is an acceleration of drug discovery. That there's going to be some more trials coming up. They're not going to be able to survive on that with the cash they have. They're going to have to raise at some point. There'll be a private placement. Something will happen to get cash in the bank in order for them to continue. As far as the chart goes, like I said, we were just breaking out. We made that high just now after 11.15. We've hit 11.73 I have here. From here, if we come back in, there's going to be that initial maybe $11 support, but I think I'd be keeping an eye on VWAP. That was the big move that earlier this morning before I came on that took us up here and had us start trading above it as we were back and forth following the first impulse move. So that's going to be the big support that we don't want to see lost. If we lose VWAP and start closing underneath that, I think the price is going to have a harder time recapturing it.
Okay, good stuff. And right now, it sure looks like 12 is the next spot. We couldn't quite get out there on the intraday breakout. We'll see if we retest 12 and have the strength to break through on that. Okay, good stuff. NXTS. Next one here is going to be DFTX. This is Definium Therapeutics, and this stock, what a move. This thing closed at 24.48. It is currently printing 40 here today. Definium Therapeutics shares are trading higher after the company announced top-line results from the Emerge study. Now, in here, Jay Rice, good morning. Good to see you. What did you think about Wyndham Clark's victory yesterday? DFTX was the old MindMed, ticker MNMD. Okay, thank you for that, Jay. Huge move here today. Huge move here today. Here's a quick peek at the short interest, 8.71% with 5.2 days to cover. So we are actually high short interest on the days to cover basis, elevated here on the short percent of float, although that has been coming down with the most recent prints here. DFTX higher by $15 here. 13, what do you think on this one?
Well, as Jay pointed out, this formerly was MindMed, and they changed their name on January 15th. So that happened earlier this year. This is going off of phase 3 results. Of course, whenever I see any kind of biotech, the thing I'm going to look at is what their cash position is, how much revenue they've got. This doesn't have any revenue. It does have some cash, but it's not profitable, and it does lose a lot of money. I'm talking like tens of millions every quarter. The float is a little thick as well, 108 million shares in the float. So I think we could see some pretty similar price action with Getty, being that also had 89 million. There may be some brief upside in DFTX, but if it starts to lose that upside, we could see a slow leak or maybe even some accelerated selling after we have that first impulse. I just don't think we're going to get a whole lot out of these heavier float movers. It should provide an initial, spike, initial, trading opportunities. But as the morning goes on, as the day goes on, I think you're going to see these start to fade.
Okay, and I had asked earlier, Kathy, what do you think? Kathy says XBI biotech ETF up 2% in the pre-market. I'm increasing my position and will park it there for the summer. Interestingly, it's on the movers list, but there's not a whole lot to cover here. Ticker APGE was bought out. So Apogee Therapeutics here, this is up 46%. And again, this just a merger and acquisition news, so there's nothing really to trade here. AbbVie acquiring Apogee Therapeutics and deepens its immunotherapy portfolio. So, Kathy, you seem to be onto something there. Pretty good stuff. Okay,
I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Apogee.
Apogee. Yeah,
I like. Yours sounds a little bit more fun, to be honest.
I'm all about fun here, but I also like being accurate. So Apogee, we'll go with that from now on. All right, 13. What do you want to do next year? SAGT.
Sure, whatever you want to look at.
Call it Saget. What's that?
Whatever you guys want to look at. I would have done the same thing. Tiger.
Tiger uppercut. Okay. That's awesome. Street Fighter, that's really wonderful there. All right, ticker SAGT. Stock, this was a penny stock. Stock is up 61% here as it has moved into dollar territory. Why is it doing that, might you ask? Saget Global CEO 1.5 million share acquisition and 1.56 million private placement coincides with fiscal year 2026 guidance of 35% revenue growth to 25.78. So we're getting some news here on the company just being better. Stock is trading higher here. A quick peek at the short interest on this one, 3.4%, 1 day to cover. That's pretty negligible. On average, the stock trades 2.3 million shares, done 28 million here today versus a float of 7.4 million. What do you think on ticker SAGT?
I do like the insider buy. I think that's pretty. That's very much worth looking at because what he spent well over $1.5 million on that. Float's fine, so it's not so thick that it's going to be difficult to trade. This is a Malaysian company. Financials are, let's probably just go to an annual for that. Actually, they're profitable. They look pretty solid here. This looks actually pretty decent. They're balance sheet looks great. So this, fundamentally, this company looks pretty good. Let's take a look at their chart. Let's see what we got here. So nice moves that we had this morning. That took us up to 243. We have since retreated from that, losing the 65 EMA in the process. And that's where we're at right now. The price is trying to recapture the 65 EMA. So clearly that's going to be our next area of resistance. If we get through that, we may run into a little bit of resistance at 165. But as long as we can start closing over that 65 EMA, I think we could see some more upside. There is some resistance up at 170, 180, and then the VWAP. So I don't know what we're going to really get between 170 and 180, but that's where the majority of consolidation is. So it looks like it's got a bit of an uphill battle for the moment. But if we can start recapturing some of these levels that I just mentioned, I think this will start to trade a little bit better.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Next here, we can take a ticker from the chat. Looks like there's some requests to take a look at Netflix and Micron. Barb, I know that you're asking about TDW as a Hormuz opening play. I wouldn't say that that's necessarily a direct play on the opening of the Strait of Hormuz. Tidewater does like offshore oil, and while that may benefit from the Strait opening, I think that the Strait opening is going to more greatly benefit some of the tankers as opposed to some of like the offshore oil plays there. So maybe you'll get some secondary traction with that, but I don't think that's a primary play on the opening of the Strait of Hormuz. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But 13, you want to take a look at Micron here, and that will actually give me the ability to step away for just a sec.
We can look at Micron. I want to bring up a lineage, ticker LINE.
Oh, that's right.
That fire is still happening.
Okay, let's do this then. We got oceans of time here. Let's make a plan of attack. We're going to start with MU. I'm going to have you break down the chart. Also here, Micron shares are trading higher. Needham maintained to buy. Raise the price target from 500 to 1550. That is a humongous price target raise from Needham. So that's news here today. This is above 1200 here in the pre-market. Lion was on here earlier saying Micron might print 1200. Didn't even wait for the market to open before it printed that. But here's a look at the chart. 13, I'm going to have you break this down like a fraction. I'll be right back. After this, we're going to talk about Lion. That's interesting, and there might be a play there. I'll be right back.
Well, here we are, 1200. Lion, you were just saying that this is going to climb over it this morning, and here we are. I guess we can now safely say, I was saying it for a while back, toward the beginning of this year, this could end up being the next NVIDIA. I think we're there, folks. This is the next NVIDIA. I think it's pretty clear that this is where we're at. Memory is very important, but here's the concern I have. We've had this massive run up into their earnings print. That's in 2 days. That comes on Wednesday when we get their earnings. I think that we could see a little bit of profit taking. Now, I'm not saying that this isn't going to be where this whole stock turns around and starts selling off, because I think they've still, they're still executing on a pretty high level. They're opening new fabs. They're expanding their production in order to meet demand, which is still very, very high. So I think this company still got a great road ahead of it. But from time to time, there are going to be some pullbacks, maybe some corrective actions. We've already had that twice since we broke over 600. We corrected just over when we just printed over 800. We corrected again when we just printed over 1,000. Maybe we'll correct shortly after or during the earnings print. We'll see some profit taking. So we could still see this continue to climb up. It's still riding the 20-day up quite nicely. And if we do end up getting a small pullback or correction, that's going to be the spot we're going to want to see support hold up. I would currently place that at about 1,000. I think 1,000 stands out pretty well as a good support area following the earnings print that could take us down if there is going to be a corrective move. I also see that 1,100 even, maybe just underneath it, like a 1090 may also provide some support, but I think I'd solidly lean on the 1,000 psychological level as well. In addition to that, we have maybe we have the couple of days left into the earnings, and we're already knocking on the door of some very high RSI, the heights of which the last time we had those two corrective or pullbacks recently was when we got over, because it became overbought. So just another thing I'm waiting for. I think that we could see some profit taking following those earnings, But I don't think that the story is over.
Yeah. And this, I think, we covered some of the economic numbers that are due out here this week. Thursday seems to be the day that has the big economic prints, but I don't think any market event is going to be bigger for the market this week than the Micron earnings that take place on Wednesday after the market closes. So we'll see what we get here with Micron 13, your point about it being overbought and that kind of leading to a pullback to the 20-day here. That's as clear as day from the chart. So good stuff on that. All right. You want to talk about line now? Want to do that?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
I don't really have a whole lot to get into with this, but just some things, because this is what I mentioned last week when the fire started, which was on Wednesday, and it still burns to this day. What's happening with this is that there's a warehouse out in Los Angeles, city's Boyle Heights, and what had happened is there was a maintenance crew that was working on the solar panels, and apparently some kind of arc or spark happened and set fire to the solar panels, and they burned across the entire roof. And now it's burned down into the building itself, and has been going on for all weekend, releasing toxic fumes and particulates into the atmosphere. California had a state of emergency declared. So this continues to get worse and worse for this situation and potentially this company. This isn't, to the scale of the Pacific Palisades fire or anything like that. It's nowhere near it, but This is still a pretty serious hazard regardless. And it's not a great look. And there's going to be some costs that are going to come out of this, as well as, lost revenue, because this is a cold storage facility for their distribution. I think that there could still be some more downside as a result of this. When you look at the daily chart, it's pretty easy to see that the 50-day SMA is looking like the next stop that we're coming down to. So maybe around 40 or just underneath that, we get some support. But as this continues on, I think that there could be even further downside. But as I said, we're getting into a big support area, big area of demand. The 50-day SMA looks like a good level of support. You have the 200 right beneath that. I think that we'll see some stability down around here unless this problem continues to go on for longer than a week. And then we could start to have that conversation about lower levels.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it seems already like it's gone on for too long, right? I'm wondering what some of the long-term impact would be here. And I mean, look, if they can't put that fire out, I got to imagine there's going to be a lot more downside here. Appreciate you bringing this to us here real quick. And then, by the way, Marcus here popping in, hitting the like button and off to the day. Great trading all. I may make it back. Marcus, we hope we see you back. Thanks for all of your support. And great to have 1 to the 3 back. There you go. 1 to the 3. That might be a new nickname here for 13.
Thank you, Marcus.
Love it. And yeah, thank you for the kind words. Okay, good stuff there online. Let's see how much we got. 6 minutes here. We got time. What do you want to do next?
I'll
take one here.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take one while you think about that. I'll take Eric's question here. He's asking about Cerberus. At least I think so. I think you got that ticker transposed there, Eric. CRBS. Yeah, I think it's CBRS is what you meant. Confirm so I don't waste a bunch of time here. They do have earnings tomorrow after the market closes. This thing was the first of the big AI IPOs. We talked for several weeks about really almost how disappointing the trading action was. I know we got pretty much one bounce in here that took us from like 292 up to like 340. All right, if you were able to trade that, but we sold that and ended up going lower here. Here's my question, Eric. How confident are we that 200 is the near-term bottom here? How confident are we on that? Because I think if the 200 holds here, I don't necessarily think that the earnings are going to be all that great here. Caveat, I'm not, I don't know what they're going to post here, but I suspect that this first earnings print isn't going to go all that well. I would be curious if this thing could hold on to 200. Now, I may be completely off. Maybe they put out an amazing number here. This thing pops back and we start looking at 300 as a key level again. But right now, as far as what I'm looking at, this thing's got to hold 200 or we're going to continue to trade lower here. The upside resistance, it actually looks like it's kind of right in here, about 240, 245. I know we pretty much ran into that. This was Thursday, right? Yeah, we ran into that on Thursday. We're 237 here today. So we're pretty much right on that. Can we get above 240 here? We'll see for a trade. I would not be interested in trading this before earnings. I want to see what that earnings print is. I have an uneasy feeling about it. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but I don't know that we're out of the woods yet here, CBRS.
This thing hasn't moved at all today. Well, I mean, maybe it has moved a little bit, but it hasn't really moved much. I like that we finally have a moving average for this. It showed up the same day the World Cup started. We closed over that moving average on Thursday. We're going to open above it today. I think if we continue to hold above this 20-day moving average, we could see that upside. But that upside is going to have a good break through that 250 area, because that seems to be the big resistance right now. Then we could start. Maybe I would just pin it more closely to 245 to 250. Seems like we haven't quite been able to get up to 250 every time we made a run for that. So somewhere between 245, 250, I would say, is going to be the resistance that needs to be taken out. And we should, as long as we can continue to hold and close above the 20-day SMA, I think that could happen. But we have earnings tomorrow, so it really does hinge on that. So I think I would just kind of keep an eye on that moving average.
Yeah, and Eric, I would summarize by saying I don't have an opinion one way or another to play this for earnings, right? I want to see what the earnings print does to the stock, how it trades. Then after that, maybe I'll come up with something. But otherwise, going into the earnings print here, I don't necessarily have an idea. Here's for a trade capturing earnings. Here's one of the things we can do. Anne-Marie, good morning. Anne-Marie, her comment here this morning is good grief. I think that was on the Needham price target raise from 500 to 1550, if I recall correctly. But nonetheless, Anne-Marie, maybe this is one that we should put on the list for a potential earnings play. I don't know if this really meets your criteria because we don't have a ton of price history with this, nor do we have a ton of earnings history with this. But maybe we can look at this tomorrow. It was. Oh, okay, that was the Needham. Okay, good. Maybe we'll take a look at Cerberus tomorrow. CBRS, we'll see. And Eric, if you have any thought on what you think the earnings are going to do or where the stock's going to go, let the group know.
And Lion, real quick, the summary of the MU coverage was it still looks like it could go higher. It still looks like it could feature some pullbacks, especially off of earnings. We're running into earnings. We could see some selling that takes us back down towards the 20-day SMA. That has been support. I would expect that that'll continue to be support. I don't think the story is over with MU yet.
Yeah, I don't either. Okay. And then last year, we've got less than a minute till we open. So what do you think of Netflix? I think we are at a serious point here on Netflix. We talked about this being a really serious support level. 13, hats off to you. You have been steadfast in calling this for lower because of the content problem, which absolutely seems to be the case. We are weak in the pre-market here. We're actually on the pre-market lows, doing our absolute best to try to hold on to 76. Looking at the daily chart here, going all the way back to 2024, this is an important level. I think if we break this, you're probably going to be looking at 70, the round 70 number. Honorable mention there to 68. 68 to 70, I think, is your next support level here on Netflix. We're open. Don't love this here.
Still looking for 70 in Netflix.
Here we go. Okay.
Well, NXTS made another move higher. Well, I guess you already covered that one, 11 to 73. Now we are open. We're trying to push higher. Probably even do a trend line here with these peaks we have in the pre-market. And if we do that, that means that we could end up seeing some pretty high levels, maybe up in the 15, 16 area if this continues to go on.
I'll add it there. That trend line a bit steep, though. We'll see.
Yeah.
SPY pushing right out of the gate here. SPY above the pre-market highs. That is ripping here. 749. Looks like it's coming right here.
Getty, we're getting some move down to the 65 EMA, looking for support there. This thing has just been, oscillating above and below the 65 EMA. So I'm not necessarily sure that going underneath it's going to mean this is done. We might be able to get some support down around maybe 125 and have this turn around and trade back up again. No, I don't know. But we've been oscillating back and forth over the 65 EMA. So until we start losing some 125 levels, then I think we could turn around still. And there's NXTS still climbing 1332. We're getting a little bit of a pull at the moment.
SPY is also climbing a little bit. Palo Alto straight up out of the gate. Apple straight up out of the gate. Netflix actually bounced right out of the open as well. NXTS, look at this, right to the trend line.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I might have cheated a little bit because I actually chopped off one of the highs here. Maybe shame on me, 13. Let me adjust this because I might have got a little overzealous there.
If we go to my trend line on this candle, we're hitting 1550. That's how steep it is for me.
Okay. Zach says, Ondas had great news and then did an offering. Well, at least you shouldn't be surprised. Not the first time that they've done that.
Offering to strength.
So here we go. So it looks like we had news that popped us to 950. Offering is sinking us down to 9. Stock went green to red on the back of that news. Let me take a look at it here. I actually didn't cover this because it happened after we went live here. 40 million in new orders for autonomous drone defense systems as demand for its loitering munition system accelerates in Europe and the US. We expect this to happen. This to me is glad we're doing that there. Again, we kind of saw this coming. This is from their counter UAS and their loitering munition systems. Okay. And then I don't have the news here for that. This to me though, Zach, this still just needs to hold the 200 on the daily. It holds to 200 on the daily. We're probably all right. It's good to see that the plan is working here. We'll see if we hold on to 9.
Ionic is having a pretty good morning. Looks like Getty still dealing with that 65 EMA, figuring out which way it wants to go. NXTS 1359 is the high. It's hanging out up here still, so that's a good sign if we want to have that trend line hit. DFTX, this is trading underneath the VWAP now. This has a much larger float, so we're already seeing some of what I was thinking we could see here with how difficult it is for the size of the float to be moved around. So I expect that if there isn't a pop or something happening here this morning, that this is going to be one of those slow leakers. Looks like one from last week, Bird, BIRD, Smart Bird. This just had an upside halt. It was consolidating all morning. We just had a test of the 65 EMA, and we had a blast off into a halt.
Okay, that's Bird.
Yep. Kathy even mentioning it. Up 15%, but that was before we had this move here, I think.
Yep. Okay, so that's a nice move higher there. Also, I'm seeing RGNT spike here. Let's see what's going on with this. RGNT. So this is basically back to where it was at the close on Friday. Let me see if there was any. This up about 6.76%. Let me just see if there was any news here on this one.
It had a private placement that was announced with warrants. That was last week. So I don't know that this is necessarily carrying over here, but this thing has been moving this month.
Yeah, it has. This thing had a big move up to 15 and change. Now I know we've kind of got this crazy range because of that recent move. I think I'd be watching here 470. See if it maybe breaks above 470 here. RGNT, this thing moving here out of the open. Hive, this was someone asked about this one earlier. Hive straight up out of the open. Looks like this is going for 5.
I think 350 on RGNT is also a spot to watch for because that is I think the who the private placement is.
Okay.
That's the private placement price.
SPY came back into VWAP.
Holy cow. Look at Ionic. Wow, what a move.
NXTS is halted, by the way. The timestamp on that halt, 9:35:23. We'd be looking at 9:40:23 as the resumption. Here's your Ionic chart, up a clean 3%.
NXTS is halt to the upside. 1408 is the high. We're going to hit this trend line, I think.
I think you might be right on that. SPY continuing to bounce here from that VWAP pull. The couple of other stocks are getting mentioned here. Kinahan, this is a penny stock. This actually looks like it might break a pre-market resistance level. This is moving higher. Keel, did I click on the wrong one there? That's SMCI. This is higher. That was an accidental click, but that's higher nonetheless. Dream Chaser mentioning Keel infrastructure here. This was higher in the pre-market, dipped and set new highs here today. 720 looks like it's stopping it there. Retro saying JR from T3 did a video saying SPX to 60 to 70 eventually. We'll see if that plays out. We've been kind of talking about that as a potential spot. We had a couple of other folks thought 90 might be a spot that it bottoms out at. We'll see there. I would be buying some for an investment at 60 if it did that.
If it goes to 60, I'm hand over fist with that.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty ridiculously low price. I'm not saying it can't go there, but if it does go there, I think that's you gotta buy it there. I think you gotta get it there. This is going to be okay. Birds open. This is going to be a very, very important company in the future. Not that it isn't already right now, but I would just say just wait. Anyway, yeah, I totally expect SpaceX to continue to come in. This is what we talked about, how we wanted to avoid all of this volatility. And so far we've done that. Now it's trading beneath the performance threshold price, which is 175.50. But still, we have a couple months, a little less than a couple months actually, before they have their earnings, and it could climb right back up over it. So it's might wait and see.
Bird pulled off that high right out of the halt here.
Yep, pulled, went all the way down to the consolidation, found a demand zone, and said, "Whoop, time to take off again."
EHGO, this was on the movers list here this morning because of the pop and drop. This is actually popping again in the regular session. Might be trying to go for the VWAP here. No position on this one.
All movers we looked at this morning are in a downward move right now. Getty, DFTX, SAGT. The only one that isn't is NXTS, which has been great this morning. It is an upside halt. Still waiting for that to unhalt, looking for a test or breakthrough or whatever. It's some price action of the trend line that we drew.
RGNT, this now at 5. This testing 5 looks like it had some high volume here, 498. This continuing its pop as well. Haven't seen anything interesting off of the unusual options scanner. I will update you if I see that, though. SMCI, that's still at highs.
SNK is pretty good this morning.
That's SpaceX coming back in. We've got some more room down there, do you think?
I mean, this SNK is up 13% today. And if you started trading this when it was, when printing over 200, not that these are, long-term investments or anything, but if you started trading this and took some positions for a swing, this has, it's been a really good one. I traded this several times. No position right now. Probably should have looked at this before I, started trading here this morning. But nice move here. Nice move in SNK.
Yeah, SpaceX move here today, taking us below 175. We've talked about that being a pretty key level here. That move below, I think maybe as long as we stay below 175, SNK might have the possibility of going higher here. Zach telling us that all space stocks down hard here today. Quantum, the opposite. Barb's mentioning quantum's going higher, space going lower. And S&P, by the way, at highs here. So that little dip off the impulse move was a great buy zone, went right to the VWAP and held there. New highs now, 749.68. Our spot there on SPY.
We do have a lot of red on my space watch list, but that is okay because this has been just a sea of green over the past several weeks. So this is totally fine. I mean, we're down almost over 6.5% in Velo, but the price is still above 27. We were trading this thing when it was under 10. This is fine.
Yeah,
it needs to cool off. Oh, here we go. NXTS is open. The higher print is 1460, not quite as high as the trend line, but still hanging out there.
Man, oh man, this trend line is going to be money, isn't it?
Oh, here we go, and
right to it.
Oh, we're going. It was like maybe just a few cents away, but it's still not done, and we're going to probably go into another halt.
1564 if it holds here. NXTS.
And
seeing some Apple calls get bought. That's moving higher. That's above 300 now. Velo continuing to pull. SpaceX continuing to pull. Ondas trying to hold right around its 200-day moving average intraday.
Bird unhalted, and when we talked about how it unhalted, it's printed $7, trying to hold above VWAP.
SPY pulling back 9 EMA here. That's not bad. Getty, this looks like it's going to try and move lower here. Really disappointment. A real big disappointment here on Getty. DFTX, this is pulling back, but so far holding its VWAP. We'll see if that can continue.
Wouldn't you know it? It's really just the super mega low float that's been moving so well today. Everything else just leaking. You still have some. Just go ahead.
No, I was just going to say a little bit of a pullback here in the SPY, but I shouldn't have interrupted you.
That's okay. DFTX still trying to get back above that VWAP, but man, that's just one of those things that happens with these large floats. They just don't trade as well as some of these other movers do. The SAG SagTech, that's not looking great right now. Down at the support area from the after hours on Thursday.
Yeah, that you're right. That and Getty, those two intraday charts don't look great.
Yeah, Deborah, inflection, it whipped around a little bit. It printed a little bit higher than what it was in the pre-market here, but I would like to see this, come a little bit higher. Fortunately, it's still above the VWAP, so if we can continue to hold above the consolidation that we moved back up through this morning, maybe we'll see some higher prints later on this morning or afternoon. Okay, what is looking good here? So we're just waiting for that unhalt and NXTS. That might be a little bit longer from now.
The timestamp on that was 9:41:18, so we're looking at 9:46:18 as the possible first resumption time. Netflix, by the way, that bounce basically brought us to where we were the low of the pre-market that we were sitting in, or one of the lows of the pre-market.
Hive is still continuing to be very good, as is BM&R. So it looks like we have some crypto names that are climbing back up here.
Yeah, and this Hive did, in fact, go through 5. Bruce, how are you doing on this Hive one? This was a good mention from earlier. How are you doing today? RGNT, by the way, that pulled back to 450. That was a pretty violent move. Now we're retracing about 50% of it.
Trading Hive through 5, you get a high 5.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah, maybe Frozen King. I need to do a little bit more diligence on that, but I think we were supposed to be getting some announcement on ERCOT. My opinion on USAR MP being up, given the they're added to the export control list. USAR is one of the two plays been keeping an eye on here. We did get all that movement that we wanted through the consolidation area. Now we're trying to do it again. So this area between 25 and basically 29 or 30 is a bit of a tough spot where we could see the price come into and then maybe trade around in and come back out to the downside. So this we're facing some consolidation right now. I think that when it comes to like I've been saying since we had these this first part of the trade war that got these names on everybody's radar to begin with, this is not over, and I expect this will continue to be a point of negotiating and deal making between the U.S. and China, and until there's some material change in the way China wants to deal with other countries and rare earths. These are going to be the companies to pay attention to, because I still think they're going to hold tightly to one of the biggest bargaining chips they have, which is rare earths.
All right, getting another bounce in the SPY here. This from the same spot, and I did get a buy signal on this again. So interestingly enough, if we take a look at the 1-minute chart here for SPY, I'll kind of show you what the indicator is doing here today. We basically pulled back to this area the first time, got a buy signal right here and a sell signal right here on this candle that started to bring us down. Market has come back into roughly the same area. I've again received a buy signal here. I also, our inability to break the VWAP here actually gave me a trim signal on this as well. So this one didn't work as well so far, but it looks like this might try and go higher here. Watch SPY here on a possible break of the VWAP to the upside.
All right.
Bruce
Quantum,
says ching. That means you get a register ring.
quantum folks, are we happier now with this movement? I am. Getting a little bit more. See if we can have this continue to go. INFQ getting closer to 14. I think. Let's see here. I think 1385 is the spot to watch for here. That's been the resistance spot for the past 2 days since the price lost it on what was it, Thursday? I think it lost that $14 handle on Tuesday, and since then it has not been able to recapture that $14 handle. So I think that 1385 to $14 area going to be a tough spot here for INFQ. Let's see if that ends up being the case.
By the way, 13, as you were talking about that, INFQ $15 calls got bought here. These expire in October. This looks like the monthly contract that expires in October. 100 contracts were bought on that sweep. Traders spent 30 grand on that individual trade. INFQ.
NXTS, guess what? It unhalted and blasted through that trend line. 1864.
Oh, yes, it did. Now, do we look for a back test of this trend line?
If this was me, if I was in this, that would have been it for me. Now, it might do other stuff. It might have other, upside, but that trend line, that was my whole thing. So I would have been out by now with this one. And I would have said, thank you very much. It's been a fantastic run up through the trend line. Whatever happens now can happen now. It could go higher, it could go to 20 for all I care. The whole plan was, if I had the cojones to take this trade in the first place, it would have been to get out of that trend line.
Plan your trade your plan. It sounds like that's what's going on here. SPY continuing to try and bounce. I did get a sell all signal on this second trade here. So as far as the 0 DTE indicator, it is saying to take gains here on the rest of this. Now, this is still pushing higher, so we'll see if that was maybe ends up being an early sell signal. But so far, the indicator here, 2 for 2 on the SPY move. G-Man also had mentioned here earlier, let me get this out here, 749.64 looks to be strong here today. I know we kind of peaked above that level once. We'll see if we're able to take that out. We are basically right on the doorstep of that right now, G-Man. No problem, Deborah. No problem at all.
The FTX continues to not look great. It's still holding this 3650, 55 area, 3650, I would say. But that looks like the spot to lose now. If you start seeing the price trade underneath it, it could be a quick move underneath 3650. And if we get that, my thought is that we do come down to that 65 EMA on that 3650 loss. It might not happen immediately quickly, but I think with that loss of 3650, the 65 EMA is the next stop.
And real quick here, SPY up at the intraday high. We'll see if it finds resistance right up here. It's right at G-Man's spot as we speak. Lion here saying, I bought ARM, Marvell, and WDC dips. Let's see if we get a huge run here today. Lion, I also want to know, what's the bet on the Argentina and the France games today?
Okay.
SPY, another trim signal here from the indicator. This is actually a trim rather than an all out. So the signal or the indicator is still working. There's another all out arrow. So the SPY signal or the SPY indicator for the 0 DTE is telling you to sell those positions intraday if you have gains on them. It looks like it's still finding resistance at that same area that G-Man has outlined. 750 as far as a round number goes looks to be pretty tough to get through.
It looks like you are getting a little bit of exhaustion in these runners. Meanwhile, it might be worth it to keep an eye on some of these ones that haven't been performing as well, like all the names that we said were kind of leaking, like SAGT and DFTX. Let's see if while these other runners kind of cool off, if they start to get a little bit of love.
G-Man excuse me, your avatars are somewhat similar. Nikhil's asking, Ryan, do you get a put signal? So this is interesting. So you could use the sell signals as put buy signals. I have them color coded, green to buy a new position, red to sell the entire position, blue to add to a position, yellow to sell partial of a position. So I'm always thinking from the call side because I'm a long bias trader, but you could use the inverse of those signals to buy puts if you were so inclined. 13, I'm sorry, what was that?
Daniel was mentioning CDT. I've been keeping an eye on this one this morning. It didn't really start doing a whole lot until just recently, but this is pushing up into some of the pre-market consolidation where it initially ran up to 225. So this one may get some pretty good movement if it can get past, I would say 168, 170. That's where the big resistance looks right now. Facing a little bit of pressure to the downside at that spot, but that looks to be the resistance. So if we can continue to hold above VWAP, I'd be keeping an eye on that area for a breakout.
Okay, this was a nice move through the VWAP, kind of flirted with that area and then moved higher here. So giddy up on this one, looking pretty good. SPY still under G-Man's resistance area and 715. That looks to be a really good call here so far. Jay Rice mentioning OOST, OUST, which is a stock that this show has been trading since it was in the low teens years ago. That stock printing above 50 here, new highs for OOST, OUST. Ouster, OOST, whatever you want to call it. OUST is the ticker.
NXTS not finished yet. Fine.
Christoph banked 24% on it, so he'll get a register ring for that.
DFTX actually coming back over the VWAP here. Despite its large float, this is showing a little bit of sign of recovery. Still think that I would keep my caution hat on. This is one that could, if it can't recapture and hold above some of these moving averages, you're going to see it turn around and leak some more. So a little bit of a bounce here. Not convinced that we're going and turning around and going higher, but just keep an eye on it in case that we continue to close over VWAP. There may be a little bit of a trade here, but I still think that eventually this leaks throughout the day.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Let's check in on some of the other big names that we have talked about earlier. By the way, RGNT, that is bouncing back and testing VWAP at 455. We'll see if it has the strength to move through that. Here's Micron. So Micron, I know we had that upgrade here this morning. 1200 looks to be the top. This looks like it wants to roll lower here.
New all-time high.
New all-time high. It looks like it actually wants to come in a little bit.
Well, maybe it does. Maybe it just gap fills, and then they said, okay, that's good enough, and then we continue higher into the earnings print. And sure, there could be selling. There could be selling in the print. There could be it could go higher after the print. I think that it would be healthier if we did get some kind of a brief pullback or corrective move and then went higher. Maybe we go higher first and then we get that pullback. Either way, I think this is going to go higher, but I still think we need to see that corrective move to continue to go higher.
Okay, and Lion here saying, let Micron come down. I'll try to buy more of it.
There you go.
Folks, I'm going to try that little workaround that we had from last week about running a little video clip here. My video looks laggy. I'm going to see if this fixes it. Just give me 1 second. Okay. No, we're not actually doing that. I just wanted to see if that helped. Looks like it did not.
NXTS still printing higher. I'm not worried about it. Like I said, I could still go higher after where I would exit, but I don't know how much higher this is going to go.
But look at that. I had asked you earlier, what happens? Are we looking for a possible back test of the trend line? Well, that's what we got on the move higher there. So
your trend line. My trend line's a little bit different.
I guess that's true. But it does look like that's what it did. We broke through that, back tested it a little bit. Higher we go here. SPY coming back into VWAP. We'll see if we hold it. Sorry, 13.
I think this will come back in underneath the trend line. VWAP's going to be the next support if we get all that, though.
Frozen King says, I blame Comcast, Ryan. I'm good with that.
Yes,
I'll do that too.
Yep. That's what the problem is. GFTX still trading a little bit higher, but it's so slow. I think the resistance is going to be maybe 39.50, just ahead of 40. Somewhere in there. Somewhere in there is going to be the resistance, I believe.
Okay, SPY still rolling over a little bit. We'll see if it holds the VWAP. By the way, VIX, that actually came in a little bit too. That's down at a mid 16 handle. We talked about JJ with the VIX earlier. And then here, Jay mentioning QNT. That's part of our quantum theme here. Let me pull that up real quick. QNT, lots of Honeywell insiders bought the offering at 60. Don't usually see that. Usually they are sellers. That's good stuff there, Jay.
Because they're believers.
Now, this is 15 points off that $60 level. So, Jay, I'd be curious as to what you think of it up here, not at 60. But, man, look at that.
Quantum. What a day Quantum's having. Ionic about to approach 60, and this opened at 56 or under 57, I mean.
Here is that Ionic. Okay.
Yeah, QNT wasn't a recent IPO.
I'm seeing some Tesla calls get bought here as well as NVIDIA calls. I don't even think we've looked at an NVIDIA chart here today. Interestingly, we talked with JJ earlier from the Cboe 13, and he said that retail flows, they definitely seem to be favoring some of the bigger AI names on pullbacks. And he cited things like NVIDIA and Apple in that. We're seeing both of those stocks get bought here today. By the way, SPY bounced from the VWAP again. This is now thrice that it has bounced from this VWAP. I am, interestingly enough, I did not get a buy signal on this last VWAP test, but I am getting a trim. Now I'm getting an all-out signal here at the top. I'll tell you what, the resistance area that G-Man threw in the chat, 749.60, whatever that was, G-Man, that thing has absolutely been in play here from the open. Now, maybe we take that out and things change throughout the course of the day here, but that spot on this morning, that has absolutely been stopping the stock.
I'd like to see what happens with NVIDIA at 217. I think that would be pretty important if we could not recapture that. I think that might lead to some more downside, like a test of 20 if we cannot get back above 217.
By the way, SpaceX, it's all good. It looks like SpaceX has held 170. We talked about this selling off, lost 175. Does look like it's curled here a little bit at 170. Bird getting mentioned again. Is that flying and taking off? Yep, it continues to fly higher here. Bird 750, your next spot. Tesla at the highs of the day. Apple actually looks like that might push higher. And interestingly enough, Bitcoin at the highs of the day, 65,500. The futures chart for Bitcoin.
Bird might actually go all the way to 850.
Okay, Bird 850 target.
Yeah.
Robert wants to know, what are your thoughts on the news from Dell? Let me pull that up here, Robert. RGNT, by the way, through the VWAP.
RTB halt up. Nice.
RTB indeed. By the way, timestamp on that halt, 9:57:48.
Okay. A few more minutes.
Okay, so the Dell AI factory with NVIDIA announces a supercomputing class infrastructure powering the next generation of HPC and AI. So they rolled out their Power Edge XE8812 server featuring the NVIDIA Vera Rubin architecture. I would imagine this has got to be a winner for Dell. Stock's higher here by 6.3%. Let me actually take the PR here and see if there's any other nuggets I can gather from this. Just give me one sec to do that. Thank you, Benzinga Pro, and our new version from last week that allows us to just copy that here real quick.
It's almost like if you're trading, if you're, picking up and owning Dell, you're probably going to want to do that with HPE as well. They both look pretty similar. They're both riding up their 20-day SMAs. They're both in the same space. I think Dell and HPE are two peas in a pod. All right, let's look at some of these movers. Looks like DFTX did get over VWAP and then it lost it. We are back underneath VWAP again. The slow moving leaker. And NXTS, following that 1957 print, we have lost the trend line. We are still above VWAP, but we are trading a little bit more spread too. Meanwhile, Ionic was through 60 a moment ago. Now it's back up there. It's trying to decide if it wants to be 60 or not. Oh, hello, Fermi. This just had a sudden burst. FRMI, one of the ones I talked about more and more increasingly as more communities are rejecting the idea of data centers in their communities.
SPY now testing the 749.64 spot. We're actually above it right now. We'll see if it can hold above it, though.
Rigetti just broke 22. And Tesla, wow, man. Let's look at Tesla. I haven't looked at that one yet today.
Tesla's at the highs. That thing's been ripping out of the open here today. I'm actually going to try and refresh Pro here.
Yeah, so NXTS. Now I'm curious to see if we can even get back over that trend line that we drew. Tesla. Well, I think this is not going to be difficult. That 20-day SMA. That's what I'd be keeping an eye. Well, maybe the 20-day and the 200. They're both pretty close in the same area. Both been providing resistance ever since the price lost both of those levels the start of this month. So, yeah, I think that's going to be the two moving averages to watch next. We can't get back above those. We're losing the 50 again. Any news on Tesla? Let's see here. Didn't read. Well, looks like there's more folks in Congress that want to go after Elon Musk, which is nothing new. Ro Khanna demands accountability for Elon Musk over USA Doge cuts and says SpaceX CEO should be subpoenaed and investigated. Tell me if you've heard that one before.
Big yawn from me on that one. Let me check Micron here real quick. Lion's doing his dance on the table stuff.
Oh, thanks, Jay. So there was a Dan Now's comments that he made a case for Tesla and I guess, Tesla being cheaper. I don't know if it's on a valuation or if it's because Elon may want to try and pick Tesla up for SpaceX at a cheaper valuation. I'm not going to speculate. I think it's just something that folks should read.
By the way, I don't know if you folks are seeing this, but I'm seeing X having a bunch of glitches. My X Pro feed is not updating at all, and I can't use the X app either. So X having some type of service disruption right now. Interestingly enough, SPY is still at G-Man's resistance area. And here you go, Lion. Micron did really kind of turn around here. It looks like a 1200 test is coming.
We're being asked if Robinhood is still down. I wasn't aware that they were.
Yeah, I wasn't either. TD Ameritrade, Schwab seems to be all right here today. And I've actually placed orders. None of them got filled, but I didn't have any trouble placing an order either. Here's what Robinhood's chart looks like.
I'm not seeing anything suggesting that they're down. However, I'm seeing a good piece of headlines here about them announcing a private offering of $2 billion in convertible senior notes due 2029. That's likely what's driving it higher here.
Cam says his Robinhood is fine. So,
well, there we are. So NXTS still kind of just bouncing around between 1625 and 1957. Pretty wide range there, but it's just back and forth. It hasn't really pushed for new highs and hasn't really broken down yet. So there could be a situation which, with wherever direction it chooses, that might be the direction for the rest of the morning, if not the whole day.
By the way, I just saw a bunch of Tesla call sweeps. These look like 0 DTEs, though. These are contracts that expire today, and they're the 412 strike. We're basically right there. 410, 412, the two strikes on those. Amazon, that pulled back and lost 240. And SpaceX looks like it might retest 170 to the downside. So one of the other things there on SpaceX might want to take a look at SNK. If this breaks 170, that actually might move a little bit lower. And that would actually correspond nicely with a break of 1850 here on SNK to the highs. That's what I'd be looking at here.
Looks like we are going to get a little bit, potentially a little bit more weakness in Bitcoin. Looks like this could still continue to come in towards 65.2K.
Brian, any more signals on your SPY 0 DTE? Negative. I've only got 2 buy signals here today. Both of those have also received ample amount of closing signals. No open signals. We are in the second trade window here for the next 13 minutes. And right now, SPY feeling a little heavy. It's above the 9 EMA. It's above VWAP. So maybe we get, and just as I speak, I got an ad and it just disappeared. So I don't feel good about that one yet. And there it is again. So, okay, I'm getting an ad right here, Brian, but I'd be careful with that. I'd have a tight stop on that. And then WDC, Lion, you wanted to take a look at WDC?
Oh yeah, wellness. Ionic is ripping, and I've got my eyes on it right now.
More Tesla calls, by the way. Those are, I believe, are still the 0 DTE calls.
Geez. WDC, that's not a good looking intraday chart.
No, it looks like it held the 740 lows from last week.
I would say that if the price can't get back above 765, it turns around and comes down towards 740. I think that's what might happen here. If it can't start closing back above 765, I think we come back down to 740. We'll see this candle.
Eric, support levels for Ondas. That is going to be 9, that round 9 number, and then also the exact number that happens to be the 200-day moving average. Let me pull that for you here real quick. I'd actually would love to see Ondas recapture and close above that value. That value is 930, by the way. So this right here, this break of this 200, don't love that, to be quite honest with you. Don't love that. Let's see if Ondas can close above 930 today. That would be ideal.
DFTX is back down, putting pressure on that 3650 area that I said had to hold. So watching to see if we hold above that, because if we don't, we lose it. But I still think that takes the price down to the 65 EMA. Getting a big pull here in the quantum and the cryptos.
Brian, I got another ad indicator on the 0 DTE. So that makes 2 now in the last couple of minutes as the SPY tries to curl and march toward the intraday highs. $750. That test, that's coming here. We talked about 750 being a potential level too.
Ionic down at VWAP. We'll see if it holds here. Joe wanted me to look at Google. Nice move down here. What do we have here on the daily chart? Looks like these two moving averages kind of pressed the price out of this range that it was in, and now we're heading lower. To me, it looks like the next stop could be, well, there is a support at 350. If we lose that, it looks like 340 is going to, be the next spot. There's probably going to be some. Then after that, I don't know exactly where I would pin this next. Somewhere between 315 and 320 maybe would be the next support. If we start hitting those levels, this is going to be oversold pretty quick. So I don't think that there's going to be a significant amount of downside. But all those prices that I just said would be about the most I could see this go down in the near term.
By the way, SPY is trying 750 right now. It's worth noting that we did peak above it by a couple of nickels there. But 750 battle still happening here on SPY. Velo continuing to come in. SpaceX hasn't breached 170. We'll see if that still happens. NVIDIA 214 looks to be the resistance area. What do you got?
Well, Lion, I don't know what you're looking towards as soon for 800, but I'm looking intraday at WDC, and the thing I'm seeing right now is that it needs to get back above that 165 area and start closing above it, because if it's going to start getting rejected, the price is going to come back in. Now, maybe we do get that move down to the 740 area that I'm looking at, and it gets support there. We could still see an intraday move where it turns around and climbs right back up and hits your 800. But for right now, for the moment, the time being, this formation that we had since we opened and have come down now and lost that 765 area and haven't been able to recapture it, I think that's going to lead to some much nearer term downside that takes us to 740 before we see that 800.
It's WDC.
Maybe it recaptures 765. Then I would say, yes, we're on our way to 800 at that point. Just got to get through the consolidation between 780 to almost 800. But I think what comes next is we need to see that recapture of the 765 level.
Here are your earnings for this week, by the way. Not a whole lot, but figured we might mention it here real quick. That's going to be in Pro. We can always come back to that if necessary. Let me go back to the workspace. Can we look at D-Pro, says Ed. Sure. That's Dragonfly. What? I know we can. I don't know what's wrong with my...
I'm getting a hammering of quantum and crypto, but let's see what happens after this current candle. Should see some support kick in.
D-Pro not looking great here, Ed. This looks like this is rolling lower, down 6% here. The $4 really seems to be the level to hold, and I would say probably 5 before that. 5 and 4 are your next real important support areas here on D-Pro. Dragonfly. Ondas testing 9. No bueno for any of the drone names here today. I'm going to refresh Pro again, too. All right, got about 15 minutes left here for the Monday show. SPY is trying to hold in here, basically back at its 9 EMA.
Yeah, Jay, I think we could see a little bit of, coming in of BlackBerry. But I don't think that this is done. I think there's still some much higher levels to be had here. It's just that usually when you get these massive runs in BlackBerry, the past couple of times it's had, there's like a month or two where it initially really rockets up. We get a little bit of coming back in, and then it goes even higher thereafter. So just kind of waiting for that coming back in to happen first.
By the way, good mention here. TrueMed, SpaceX did break 170, and SNK, yep, that trade worked as that broke through the highs on the break through 170 here on SpaceX. Nice job on that for whoever was in that one.
NXTS, 21 now. I don't want to touch this one. I don't know where exactly it's going to head yet. Let's see if I can. Oh, you know what? Oh, stop it. We might have already hit the highest point it could go. On the daily chart, we just ran to the 200-day EMA, and we are facing that as resistance. And that's also lines up with the consolidation area from November of last year. If we get through this, next resistance is going to be 25 15.
Okay. SPY on this current rollover here, we're going to see if it finds any support at VWAP. That's actually at about 748. Let me get you the exact value there. 748.79 is your VWAP support. Here's what the Tesla chart looks like. 415 looks to have stopped it.
A lot of damage.
And then as far as the Tesla news, no, I don't see anything crazy here. And we had that news that we covered about Ross Gerber saying that Waymo was way ahead of full self-driving. And then we had the Ro Khanna demanding a whole bunch of stuff news that we talked about earlier as well. Nothing necessarily material here. Wellness.
Just waiting to see if we get any support in these names that ran and then completely sank. Crypto and quantum and maybe even drones, probably all doing very similar things. Did the drones end up doing a little better before just recently?
A little bit better before just recently.
So did they? Okay, so did they start trading higher when we opened the market before the past 20 minutes? Well, where everything's selling off.
Yes. Well, Ondas did. That had news. Let me just check a regular one. We'll go back to DPro here real quick. I see what you mean. Oh my gosh, I've got to be able to type correctly.
At this point, it looks like everything that has been a theme over the past year is just popped and dropped. The quantum space, drones, probably could even look at battery plays, and we saw rare earths. I mean, rare earths coming back into. But basically, all the themes that have we've been seeing for the past year, they just had a run up, and now they're kind of selling.
Sell-off is intensifying here in a couple of names. SpaceX continues to move to the low. We're now in a 168 handle. The SPY continues to fall. This actually broke beneath its VWAP, so it doesn't look like we're going to get another bounce there for a potential trade. And then Netflix, which we took a look at earlier here. This came in and bounced, but now new intraday lows as Netflix looks to resume its move down towards the 70 handle.
Let's go. I thought they just tried to pick up a company like Lionsgate or something.
Yeah, that was the news. It was the recent one was Lionsgate.
I think that kind of makes it pretty clear that the writing is on the wall. They don't have content. We're going to raise our prices to make new content. Oh, crap, that's going to take a while. Let's just buy this company over here. I don't know. I'm getting it's all this is making me a little bit nervous for Netflix.
Yeah. And I mean, it might be one of these where we kind of need to have the capitulatory move down before the bottom's actually put in, right? Like this has been such a huge winner for so long. We need to shake some of those folks out before this thing really makes another move.
Mm-hmm. Then it could be good again. Meanwhile, we see big pulls in all those theme names.
Intel, we saw this. This was actually up on the news of President Trump's social media post regarding Apple and Intel and Apple working together. This pulled a little bit from the pre-market high, right back onto that same 140 level here in Intel.
Yeah, and Jay, I think we're going to have to see that growth. Especially with their robotics and QNX platform, that we're going to have to see that start to rake it in a little bit more. I agree that at this price up here, valuation becomes a lot trickier. So they need to announce something at their earnings. Something has to come out of that earnings that's big, I think.
SpaceX down nearly 9% now. This is interesting. Lion here saying Accenture, ticker ACN, is a buy. We talked about this one recently. I'm going to start buying them. Didn't we talk about this on Happy Hour 13?
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is one that a lot of us have looked at before. And I think this is like unjustifiably low. This is the capitulation move we want to see in Netflix.
Yeah, you might be right here.
But that was
Let's say-
a massive drop.
I would say if you don't like it here, the next level to look at would be 115 on Accenture. Lion, you think you like it right here? You think it's bottomed here, and then maybe we fill this gap above in short order? That's what it feels like.
Yeah, this is super oversold. Sub 20 RSI. I mean, if anything, it could make a great reverse, bounce trade. At most, you've got a great price at a good company, and we're looking at prices that are almost 10 years old. This is back from July of 2017. Sorry, almost 9 years old. All right. Looks like we have a halt down now in NXTS. I wonder if that's signaling that the party might be over for this one. Fantastic moves up here today. My exit was a little bit early. That's okay. That I don't know that we were going to go all the way to that EMA. Ionic might be turning around. Bitmine.
EHGO here. This is one of the movers here. We didn't talk a whole lot about this one. We talked about this maybe coming back to the VWAP. Unbelievable. Took this off my screen. This thing went through the VWAP, and now this is halted to the upside above the pre-market high. EGHO timestamp, by the way, for anyone interested in this halt.
Oh yeah, when we traded last week, we were trading CDT.
Yeah, here we go. EHGO timestamp for the halt 10/21/42. That is halt number one. We're looking at 10/26/42 as the resumption time.
And the moves that this one was making was last Wednesday, I believe. So if we're going to see, you could look at a 5-minute chart and look to the left, you'll see all that price action. We're coming up with some of that resistance right now in the 6 handle. I guess it's like somewhere between 615 and 675 might be some resistance. We get through that, you could potentially see a high of 805 like we did in the pre-market that day.
SNK, man, let me tell you something. That has been the vehicle here in this SpaceX move. That was perfectly called from that 170. I didn't necessarily know it was going to be moving lower to that 170. We basically went through 175, tried to bounce and recapture, couldn't, rolled back over, lost 170. SNK been moving higher since the open here. That was a really good mention early on the SpaceX movement. Netflix pounding lows, Amazon pounding lows. Saw a question here. Any reason why Amazon is getting hit? Didn't see one here earlier, Rhino, but let me check it out. -3%, -3.3%. Wow, that actually continues to get worse here.
The most recent piece of news that I see here is that ArcelorMittal taps, if that's how you pronounce it, taps Amazon AWS's supercharged global plants. So they're partnering with Amazon to scale AI and steel making. There's probably a little bit more reading.
Amazon needs to hold this 236 right here. This is actually your low from Thursday.
That's also the 200-day SMA.
Okay, so this is a pretty important level. Cam asking if Comcast strikes again. I didn't even get a notice. My lights are still good on the modem. Everything looks good. I just noticed that Restream dropped me temporarily. 13, such pro. He acted like it didn't even happen, though. So I think we're in good shape.
Here's a spot for Amazon that looks really good to me. If you look at a monthly chart, you have the 20-month SMA at 224.85 right now. Let's say it's 225 is the spot. I have a trend line here that lines up pretty well with that. I drew it from the high of February in 2025 to the high of July 2025, and that has been an interesting support resistance level since then. I think if we come down there while that 20-month SMA is right in the same area, that's gonna bode pretty well for a decent support area. seeing as how we also had support in the past from that very area, in the past couple of years. I would think 225 is the spot to watch for in Amazon.
Okay. 225. Good stuff there, 13.
Oh, stop it, Cam. I appreciate that. I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, when it comes to ACN, depending on how you're, wanting to take a position in that, Jay, to your point, it looks like it could be a falling knife. And if you're not sure if there's more downside ahead and you want to start taking position in it, that's where you ease in. But if you are convinced that this is the bottom here, or we have seen the bottom, this is where you load up. It just depends on what your risk tolerance is and what your plan is.
I don't really see. It looks like Twitter is working again here. I don't really see anything. I see people starting to call for 150 on SpaceX, which would make sense. Now, Brian here saying the space names have been generational shorts since IPO day. This is why 13 and I talked about the halo effect and also the possible sell the news effect from SpaceX. Now, we didn't get it on SpaceX's IPO day, had a couple of days of trading up first, but we're getting it. We prepared you for it.
I'd be curious to see what happens tomorrow, because this is the third down day in a row. And usually we get some kind of a relief bounce with this kind of price action. So we'll see if that ends up happening tomorrow.
EHGO. This now broken from its halt. This has moved higher. Bruce. Ka-ching.
Approaching 250. That's the one of the resistance areas I was talking about, that where we could see price reversal. If we do break through this, the high from the day it ran up last week, 805 in the pre-market.
805.
Oh, of course, Tensei. Of course, there's tons of fun. I mean,
look, we're guilty of making several of those. Just to be clear, we've made plenty of puns on SpaceX, the rocket landing. Is it going to get caught, or is it going to crash into the launch pad? I mean, keep them coming.
Well, we might get a catch of Starship in Flight 14. That's what's been discussed and talked about lately.
I think that's going to pop this too. I think any of those really crazy, never before seen successful things are going to end up popping the stock. SNK at the highs, by the way. What a move.
And we're probably not going to see Flight 14 before their earnings, but we should see Flight 13. That's supposed to happen sometime between now. Well, actually, it's supposed to happen in July. So we'll see. What we end up getting, but it's going to happen before their earnings. It's going to be just at least one Starship launch, and then they want to do one every month after that. So every month a Starship launch.
NXTS. This is actually halted to the downside. Yep. Interestingly enough, right on where I drew the trend line. Big B saying oil has been straight down since the open. I'm not believing in an all-day fall. Looking for the bounce. Big B's, we are currently at support area 1 as far as the pivot levels go for oil. 73.82 down 2.68%. I think it would take something more than what we have to crack back into the 60 handle on oil. I will say, this thing was right around 100, and as soon as we started to get good news out of that conflict, we made a very quick move down to the low 70s. Now, what's it going to take for us to break beneath this? Probably more than we have out there. I understand why you're looking for the bounce play. All right, 13, any closing words for the group? We're out of time for the day.
Well, it's been a quiet end. Everything that was running just kind of quietly faded away. So
as is the SPY.
I think that's what I'll end up doing here, folks. I'm just going to quietly fade away, enjoy the rest of my morning. Had a nice, fun time talking with y'all, and I'll be back here tomorrow. We'll look at more stocks, we'll trade some more stocks, and we'll talk more about all the different fun things that are happening with World Cup then. So until then, folks, have a great rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.
13, good stuff. As always, take care. We'll see you on Happy Hour, folks. We're done here for today. Thanks, everybody, for joining us here today. I hope you like our guest, JJ Kinahan, here this morning. Stay green, stay safe, stay focused. We'll be right back at this again tomorrow. Have a great rest of